As the great Bobby Heenan would say, they say money can't buy happiness. Give me $50 and watch me smile. Welcome to Wrestling Tonight, another good episode for you guys. It's WrestleMania week. As always, live from No Cell Studio, I'm the ace of the Tavern, ACEFIELD Retro, and joined, as always, by the One Bad Chad.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped for this episode. This might be one of the best weeks of pro wrestling because this is the lead up to not only Mania, but we got Supercard of Honor. We've got an Impact show. We've got GCW The Collective. This is a big smorgasbord for all pro wrestling fans. I'm excited to jump into everything.
Yeah, it's become the Woodstock, the Lollapalooza of wrestling, and it's just absolutely the destination for wrestling fans. And if you're in LA, you guys are probably getting there Tuesday, Wednesday, and you guys have that full list of things to go through. And hopefully this will be serving as an appetizer to get you guys prepared of what's actually out there.
Yeah, man. What's better than Mania season? I know, like, there's a lot of people out there, they want to hitch their wagon to some company and just hate on the other companies. But this is WrestleMania, man. Even if you're down on the product or down on any product, anytime there's a big event, as pro wrestling fans, we need to enjoy that excitement, get pumped up for it.
Yeah, I remember, like, going back to 1999, one of the first WrestleManias I watched. My uncle was living in Philadelphia when they were in town, and I remember they were handing out media things, and that was a really big deal at the time. But to see how much it's grown since that moment, where they take over the city, it's like the Super Bowl being in town, and there's bids for it. It's epic, man. This is going to be such a fun week of wrestling.
Super fun. I'm beyond stoked. I mean, it kicks off like, you know how wrestling weeks go. We've got a wrestling show every night of the week. And then, you got Supercard of Honor kicking off on Friday night, followed by Mania weekend with a bunch of other stuff all jam-packed in the middle. It's going to be such a good weekend for pro wrestling fans.
Not to mention, we have our normal slate of wrestling, AEW Dynamite, Rampage. We have our weekly TV shows. So, feel bad for your significant others or people in your life that ask you to do things. We have more hours of wrestling to consume. But with that being said, let's not bury the lead. Let's get into the first story for our big stories.
Let's get into the big stories.
Big stories. Story 1.
Story number 1. And like we said before, it is WrestleMania week. And what bigger than this, man? WrestleMania 39 from LA. We have a special guest, our correspondent, to help us break it down.
Yeah, coming live from Raw Down, young Anthony. Thanks for joining us, dude.
I feel like Andy Williams in this bitch. It's the most wonderful time. It's WrestleMania season, baby. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. We can't kick off our big story 1 all about Mania. You guys have been crushing it on the Raw Down, covering all the ins and outs. And pull the curtain back. We're recording this on Sunday. You just dropped the return episode of the Titantron. So it's an exciting time to have young Anthony on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me on. I can't wait to talk about Mania. And this is gearing up to be a good show. So I think there's going to be some good discussion here.
All right, lead us through the card, Anthony. We'll follow your lead. You, like we said, you're the resident expert of Raw, SmackDown, WWE land. Lead us through, tell us your thoughts, and, pivot to us.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, look, I know that there's a lot of people talking about, Mania, the buildup maybe hasn't been as great as people have been wanting it to be. It doesn't really feel like Mania, but I would kind of disagree with that. In the recent weeks, specifically, I feel like WWE has really kicked it up and making it feel special. Obviously, when you're going into WrestleMania week, you really want those big matches to feel big. You want the overall premise of WrestleMania to feel like a WrestleMania. And even though some of these matches aren't exactly what people, either wanted or were expecting, I do feel like they've done a good job in hyping it up to the point where it's like, even for a match like, Brock Lesnar versus Omos, I'm still interested in the spectacle of it because they've done a lot to, push it and be like, this is something that is, beast versus giant. They've been able to sell me on it. So that's kind of the match that I'll start off with because I know that there's a lot of different opinions on it. What do you guys think of the match? Like, obviously, there are other things that could have happened with Brock, I'm sure. Gunther comes to mind, maybe another Bobby match. But, I mean, what were your overall thoughts when they announced Brock Lesnar versus Omos?
I'll defer to you, Chad, about the Lesnar and Omos match.
I mean, when it was first made, like, honestly, my initial knee-jerk reaction is to shit on it. Like, you've got one of your top stars. I think, arguably, to this day, Lesnar is the biggest star they have that's active. You know, push out John Cena. I know he's came back around for Mania season, but I think I think Lesnar has even more public credibility than even a Roman Reigns. More people just know who Lesnar is. So at first I was like, come on, man, you're giving him to Almost. But if you take a step back and really look at it, it's classic WWE WrestleMania booking. You know, like it does feel like things we've seen before in the past. You know, how many matches early on in Taker's career at Mania were just kind of like, what's going on here? It's odd to me to see Lesnar kind of take that role. I know he's late in his career and he is kind of in that position now where he's going to be putting over young guys. I don't know how much we get from this. I mean, does the Lesnar rub really make Almost a credible big man for the casual fan? I'm not sure. I'm not out on it. I'm more out on it in the respect, not so much the match itself and the spectacle of it at Mania. I'm more out on it as being a worried Lesnar fan of what does this mean for him moving forward? Because like if he's taking a match like this, it kind of signals to me that maybe he's 1 foot out the door. Now that's yet to be seen, but that's kind of the feeling I have with it.
I actually really like this match compared to what it could have been. We mentioned the other options, and obviously Gunther would have been a cool option to have him get the rub from Lesnar, especially if he's on his way out. But I do like what they eventually did to the IC title. But, I won't talk about that right now. We'll get into that in a sec. I like what they're doing with Gunther and Drew and Sheamus. But this match, as you mentioned, I think WrestleMania should be for every fan. You're bringing some casuals back. They like to see the spectacle. And I don't imagine this match is going anywhere longer than like 7 to 8 minutes. Be spot
Dude,
fest.
if it goes 7 to 8 minutes, I'm going to be shocked.
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of
more
standing
4 to
around.
5.
4 to 5.
It'll be like a standing around for Lesnar, awing at himself that he was able to get up Omos for the F5 and suplexing him. That alone is worth the price of admission for that match. So I'm okay with it, and I'm interested to see if like Omos is the guy that Lesnar ticketed as like I want to put him over. In his world, maybe he's like this young guy, because we forget Omos is a young guy. Maybe he wants to put him over to get him to the next level, and he may not be able to work, but he is a spectacle. He's a real life giant.
Yeah. To both of your points, Chad, you mentioned The Undertaker, and I found this statistic not too long ago that I threw on Raw Down that I thought was very interesting, that The Undertaker was 27 years old when he went 1-0 at WrestleMania.
It's crazy.
Omos is now 28 years old. So I'm not saying that Omos is going to be the next Undertaker. Don't get me wrong. But he's at that point where it's like he's about to enter that age range where you start to really become into your own if you're going to become a star in the WWE. So I feel like them putting him up against Brock Lesnar, even though at the beginning it didn't really make sense for me, it's still showcasing that at least he is someone that they are looking to make something big, pun intended. And again, right, 3 to 4 minutes at most, but I think just being in the ring with Brock will help elevate him a tad. And I think you also mentioned, what does this leave Brock? I saw a report somewhere that if Brock wins, that's an indication that he's going to be around for at least another year. I think he would have signed a 4 to 5 match contract. If he loses, then that's a very strong indication that he might just be done, and this is the end of his run. So if he's going against Omos, especially after turning down a match with Bray, I think that really shines a light on what he thinks of Omos, which is also very important.
Yeah.
Ace, you mentioned the Intercontinental title match, so I think we can transition into that next, because I think this is definitely in the possibility of match of the weekend when it comes to the WWE. Gunther and Sheamus have already had so much history. Sheamus and Drew have already had so much history with these 4.5, 5-star matches. So when you put all 3 of these guys together, I think this is definitely a match made in heaven. I am expecting Gunther to retain his championship and continue I think they said the other night on SmackDown that he is the longest reigning IC champ of the 21st century. I wouldn't mind if he becomes one of the longest reigning IC champions ever. That's how good Gunther is at this point. I mean, even just random matches that he has on SmackDown, like his match with Pete Dunne / Butch the other night.
Yeah.
It just showcases how great of a talent he is. It makes me torn if I want to see him lose the IC title to become in that world championship contendership, or if I'm happy with him just being that longest IC champion, which I'm totally for as well. But I'm personally going with Gunther. I don't know what you guys thought of the overall match, but I'd love to hear what you thought.
Yeah, I'm like, honestly, this is one of my matches of the weekend, and this has potential to be a very memorable WrestleMania match, not just on the 39 card, but of all time. And what I'm really excited about is this having importance on the IC title, and we'll talk about the US title. Both mid-card titles feel important for the first time in forever, and I think that is Triple H's fingerprint on those things. The IC title being in a prominent spot on the card, that's what it used to be. And like all through, I mean, how many years did we go by without the IC title being defended at WrestleMania? Like, never mind in a prominent match, and having a dominant reign too. So Gunther, they're like, we're talking about this in Shot Nostalgia. The IC title was used as a stepping stone to the world title. And I think they're finally getting there. Gunther feels like he could be well on his way to being world champion maybe next year after this reign is over. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what the IC title should be used as. So I'm stoked for this match. I think Gunther is going to win, but man, there's gonna be a lot of red chest and banged up bodies, but it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, this is my earmarked match of Mania. Like, this is the one I'm looking forward to most. I mean, I'm a total Gunther mark. I have a photo of Walter on my wall right now. These three guys, we've already seen what they can do, and now throwing them all three together on the Mania stage, where everything's going to be upped. The ante will be upped for this match. I think they're going to keep the title on Gunther. And honestly, if Cody Rhodes ends up taking that world title, which I think he will at Mania, I think it's setting up Gunther to be a great opponent down the line. I don't think he's going to be next in line. I really think Randy Orton's going to come into play somehow in Cody Rhodes' reign. But I think Gunther, the red, white, and blue of the American Nightmare going against the fascist undertones. I know Gunther says there's no undertones, but come on, dude. We know there's fascist undertones, and it works perfectly to tell that story. So, and we got a teeny taste of that in the Rumble. So give me Cody Gunther down the line. Huge Gunther mark. I can't wait for this match.
Let's not forget, guys, they're going to be in London for Money in the Bank. So maybe that, by then, in a perfect booking world for me, if Orton's ready to come back, I put Orton in the fold with Cody for a few months, and then Gunther heat him up for July. That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Cody and Gunther is definitely one of, I would probably say, my most dream anticipated match. It's just right there. You even mentioned the Cody and Gunther final two in the Rumble. Like, I'm so ready to see that match. Switching gears a little bit, I kind of want to talk about the women's side of things because I think it was very interesting how they went about this card. We have 4 women's matches, which I think is great across a 2-night WrestleMania. You definitely need a strong presence in the women's division. But kind of tying this into our first episode of the Titantron, we talked about matches that we would book if we had the pen of WrestleMania this year. And across the board, all 5 of our co-hosts, we all mentioned Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. And I think it's very intriguing how they went with Charlotte versus Rhea and Bianca versus Asuka. And on top of this, you also have the other women's matches involved, a lot of multi-women tag team matches. I just want to get you guys' thoughts. Like, how do you think they went about, booking the women's division? One thing that I will say before I defer to you guys is that, and I've talked about this multiple times on Raw Down, the fact that Ronda Rousey has been relegated to the status that she is in WWE is both a testament to the booking of her, but also her herself. Like, we're talking about someone who has, in the last few years of Mania, been in the spotlight, been in the women's championship matches, been in the main event of WrestleMania. And now that she's in, with all due respect, this kind of nothing match, this WrestleMania women's showcase match that isn't even for a championship opportunity, let alone a championship. I think this is just a testament to how low on the card she's dropped. And I'm just so shocked with how they've done this. This is Ronda Rousey we're talking about, former UFC women's champion. Like, I don't know what you guys are thinking about this, but overall, what were your thoughts on just how they've went about the women's division this Mania?
I'll jump in real quick, Ace. With Ronda Rousey, I think her booking is a reflection of the passion she has for the business right now. I feel like since she's returned, all of the fans have picked up on this kind of lack of passion from her. Like she's never really felt as in it as she was in her first run. And there were rumors that she, had gotten injured and things like that. And maybe that plays into it. But I just feel like, if the boss doesn't feel passion, he's not going to put you in a marquee spot on the grandest stage of them all. As far as the way they've booked the women on this match, Bianca Belair, Asuka, I'm with you guys on Titantron. Like I thought they would go Bianca and Rhea, kind of have the two young guns clashing on the grandest stage, kind of, that early Rock Austin type of vibe where, hey, we could see these two women feud for several Manias. But I do get the booking of it because you're putting two young talent in there in the classic getting the rub from a veteran type of, Asuka, as poorly as she's been booked on the main roster, she's a vet. And obviously Charlotte is arguably their best vet on the roster. So it makes sense for these two women to maybe get a win over big names like that and gain some of that love from the fans or credibility from the fans for getting those big victories. I don't have a problem with it. I would have preferred to see Bianca and Rhea tear it up, but I think regardless of how each of these stories have been told, I don't think they've told them as well as they could from a storyline perspective, but I think the matches themselves they're going to show out.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I would have flopped them too. I think they got so stuck in the trying to give Rhea her win back from a few years back against Charlotte, and they got lost in the mud there. And I think they lost an opportunity to have Rhea versus Bianca. But who's to say they don't do it at 40 when Rhea gets another year under her belt in this?
And it would be bigger. At that point, it would be bigger.
Absolutely. So, as far as like the way it's booked, like you said, I think it hasn't had emphasis on the card. It doesn't feel like Rhea's feuding with Charlotte. She's more involved with the Judgment Day stuff and involved in the men on that roster. And yeah, it just feels very thrown together. And then the same thing with Bianca and Asuka. Like it feels, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like Bianca is undoubtedly going over on Asuka. They have not built up Asuka enough to feel like she could beat Bianca, and rightfully so. I think Bianca retains, and I think Rhea does win, and she's gonna have a nice little long reign. And we may
she better win, man. She better win.
I think she gets involved in like intergender stuff later in the year. They've been hinting that with the IC title, and like maybe if you get it off Gunther, you have Rhea get involved with intergender stuff, and that's the way to spoon feed WWE some of the intergender stuff going on the indies and the smaller promotions.
Yeah. I think one positive that I could take from them kind of splitting away Rhea and Bianca for this Mania is that it at least makes things a little bit more unpredictable. Like for me personally, I know, Ace, you said that Bianca is hands down the winner, and I would love to believe that. But at the same time, you bring in someone like Asuka with a quote unquote completely new character, new look, new presentation. And then on the other side of things, you have Rhea and Charlotte. Like as much as I want to say Rhea's going to win this, Charlotte is Charlotte. So, I mean, I think all four have really strong contention, really strong consideration to win both of their matches. So I think at least that makes things a little bit more unpredictable for Mania. One thing that I really wanted to bring up to you guys was, I know that the general critique for WWE, and it's been said a few times on this show as well, is outside of the bloodline, what else do you have in WWE? And I definitely agree with that to an extent. Bloodline is definitely that biggest story, and we're going to talk about the bloodline kind of towards the main event portion of this WrestleMania preview. But I think one of the strongest stories going into this Mania is one that has been told over a long period of time, and that's the Battle of the Mysterios, Dom and Rey. I don't know if you guys checked out SmackDown this past Friday,
pop was electric. It was awesome.
That pop for Rey. I don't know, especially for someone like Rey, who also hasn't been presented that well in recent years, considering that he is a Hall of Famer going in this year. In recent times, we've had eye for an eye and all that stuff going on with Rey Mysterio. So now to see the fans finally get behind Rey once again, I think this match is really going to be magic. You knew that you had to do this at WrestleMania. The fact that it's father versus son, and we still have a Hall of Fame ceremony to get to. I wouldn't be surprised if we have, Dom kind of interrupting that Hall of Fame induction speech for Ray. And I think that could just add more fuel to this fire. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what this story has done. Like, how have you perceived it? Are you excited for this match with Dom and Ray? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this would be like the perfect opener. Obviously, they said they're going to open with the U.S. title on night 1. Maybe they decide to open it on night 2. This has the feel of the old school Eddie versus Ray match that opened WrestleMania 21. And honestly, it's commentary to how they built things up. I was so out on Dominic Mysterio, and they brought me back in. We were so critical of how he was booked. Turning him heel was the best thing ever. And then teaming him with the Judgment Day and how they veered away from what Judgment Day was to what it is now. I'll eat all the crow in the world. I think he is marvelous. Like the heel work is like he fits perfectly into who he wants to be, and his in-ring work is getting better. And this has potential to be one of those memorable moments. And like that's what WrestleMania is about. It's about moments, to see both of them in the ring together. And it's got to be amazing for Ray after all these years in the ring to be face to face with Dom. And like you can even pull. I mean, a lot of his childhood too was shown on screen. Go back to the SummerSlam ladder match with Eddie Guerrero and Ray, and like seeing how he's grown up on screen and just how he's interacted with Ray, and now he's becoming potentially a huge star they're building around, which I can't believe I'm saying that, but Dom is at that level where I enjoy seeing him on my TV. So I am very excited for this match. I think it's gonna be great.
I think this is the second best story in WWE, is the story of Dom. I mean, I was calling for him to be cut or sent to NXT at a certain point. And it's funny what a heel turn can do for you. I mean, if you look at this card and you look at Roman, the same can be said. Sometimes a heel turn can just completely shift the way fans think about you. I mean, the dude grew his hair out. The look, he doesn't look like some just nerd out there, some geek. He looks cool. All of the stuff with Rhea has been hilarious. I would argue Rhea's storyline with Dom has been better than her storyline building for
100%.
Charlotte.
100%.
So it's like, I think Dom has locked it in. I was kind of shocked that they pulled the trigger on making the match on SmackDown. Not that I don't like it. I thought they were going to wait for the Hall of Fame and have an angle shot.
Mhm.
But like, there is something to be said about, Ray is an absolute legend in the business. So to kind of take a little bit of his shine at a Hall of Fame ceremony to shoot an angle, there is a little bit of that, like, give Ray his moment. He's earned it. He's arguably the greatest luchador of all time. So I love this. I mean, I popped when Ray got up in him on SmackDown, dude. I was ready. Had the mom and the sister ringside. I think they've perfectly built this, and this is one of the better stories.
And this just shows, dude, when you build up something perfectly, something as simple as a punch can make people pop to the level. And that it just shows the tension that's been building, as Anthony mentioned before, months and months. Like this has been going on for a long period of time, and it finally boiled over. Would I have decided? I kind of would have liked him to actually hit him for the first time at WrestleMania, but then how do you get in the ring? Like, why is Ray getting ready for a match if he doesn't? So I see why they did what they did, and they got a huge moment out of it. And that's something I could see the build-up package of him finally hitting him and defending his family, and like it was awesome. It was definitely really well built.
Yeah.
And this is a story, a tale as old as time, right? Father and son, anyone can get behind this. Like my Italian grandfather who lives with us, he watches SmackDown from time to time, especially around this time of the year. And he was telling me yesterday, about Ray and Dom, and he was just, Anthony, that guy, he beat his son. I said, oh my God. Like he was totally on board for this. So I know what match he's looking forward to going into Mania. But speaking of one grandfather, I could talk about the grandfathers at this WrestleMania. We have a few old timers competing at this show, and we kind of group them together for the sake of time. We have John Cena, going for a United States Championship match against Austin Theory. We also have Edge fighting Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell. I wanted to bring the matches up before we kind of get into the main event, I guess you can call it. When we're talking about Cena and Edge, obviously these are Hall of Fame caliber wrestlers, and they're coming back for these matches. And you knew that, when you're in Los Angeles, you need to make this WrestleMania huge. And I think there's no doubt about it that the matches themselves, Edge versus Balor, Theory versus Cena, are going to be fantastic matches. But I think something's been getting lost in translation in the build to these matches. Theory and Cena, we've talked about it a little bit on the Raw Down. I feel like there has been less to no proper build for this match. I think it's kind of just selling off of the name John Cena, which works, but when you're trying to build up someone like Austin Theory, he's looked like a complete loser in this entire feud. Even with the stuff with the Street Profits, it's like, what are we doing here? And then, I mean, if you watch Raw Down, you know my opinions on Demon Edge versus Demon Balor in the Demon Hell in a Cell, which makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know why we're continuing this match, this feud. We have 1 or 2 years left of Edge in the ring. The fact that we're wasting this again on the Judgment Day, although I'm the Judgment Day's biggest fan, it still doesn't make sense why we're still continuing this. So overall question is, you know, how much does the build hurt these type of matches where the star power is just unprecedented? Like, are you still excited for these matches, or have you kind of been hurt by the way that they built them up?
For me, with like the Hell in a Cell match, I feel like they had to put that stip on there just to give it some interest, because I mean they've squeezed this Edge Judgment Day thing for all it's worth. I haven't been a big fan of Edge feuding with them. You know, this with Beth Phoenix getting involved, I don't know. It's just went all over the place. I feel like they've drug it out a little bit for me. Anytime you got a Hell in a Cell, though, it's going to pique fans' interest. So I think that stipulation's there to kind of add a layer that fans didn't know. Well, I mean, fans probably were expecting something, but you know what I mean. And with Theory and Cena, I think you're right, Anthony. They're building that based solely off of Cena, and I think it's a built-in match that fans have always kind of expected, just because Theory has garnered so many comparisons to John Cena, as far as he's the next guy, he's the next prototype. Like, so I think it's that match to me seems like just the classic passing of the torch, whereas Edge and Finn Balor doesn't seem like a passing of the torch. I mean, Finn Balor's been doing it for a long, long time too. So it's almost like two vets in a way in the Hell in a Cell. But with Theory and Cena, it seems like a classic passing of the torch. I would be shocked if Cena won that match. Like, I think that would be a misstep, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not big on either match, but I think Cena's one of those guys. Like, I was never a fan of him. He actually drove me out of wrestling fandom for a while, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. It's good to see Cena around. It's good to see Cena on a WrestleMania card. So I'll be watching. I'll be interested, but these aren't the ones that I'm like really looking forward to.
Yeah, with Edge and Balor, I feel like the same thing we said about Ray and Dom. It's not just about longevity of the story; it's about how you tell the story. And I feel like there's too many pitfalls in this Edge and Balor story. And you can mention Edge was hurt, so obviously you had to put a pin in it, but it was a perfect opportunity to move away from it. So this has been going on too long. It just feels disjointed. And like, yeah, I mean, I'm glad Finn Balor, if you go through he's having a prominent match at WrestleMania, so that can't be lost against Edge. And maybe time will be kind to this match, but in the moment, as we're building towards this, I feel like I should be more excited. Two of my favorite guys going at it in a Hell in a Cell, which is a cool stip. Hope they break out the purple Hell in a Cell. I really hope they're doing that. I don't know if that's a possibility, but you know, it's WrestleMania. Go big or go home. I want to see a purple Hell in a Cell. But as far as Theory and Cena goes, I'm a little bit higher on this match than most people because I'm a big fan of Austin Theory. I think they were starting from the ground up to build him back up after burying him with Vince leaving. I think they've done a decent job. His run as U.S. champ has been decent. As you mentioned, he was clowned by Cena in that promo, and I don't see the point of it. Because even if he beats Cena, like they mentioned in the promo, where does he go from here? You have to face the fans the next night. And I think he has to have a decisive victory. It's not just a quick victory. He needs to beat Cena very decisively. And I think Cena in his later years has been very giving. And maybe similar to the Lesnar and Omos match, like maybe he said Austin Theory is the guy I want to build and help someone on the way out. And Theory has loads of potential. I saw him live at Evolve a few years ago when they were had that association with WWE. He's very impressive, and I think he has a good look. He's serviceable in the ring, like he's getting better every week. But you know, this is another moment too. You know, I want to comment on the mid-card title being in a very big showcase match, and that is important to me because that's where you build your future stars, and they're using it as a launch point. So I think Theory needs to win, but not just in a cheap way. He needs to win decisively if this means anything for him.
I think
Totally.
Triple H has done a great job at making those mid-card titles feel important. That's one of the
Oh, yeah.
biggest things I've seen from the transition of power is IC and US mean something. And just real quick about the Cena burial promo on Austin Theory. That's the one thing that made me pause with Austin because they've done that a lot in WWE where they throw a guy who they see as an up-and-comer in with a proven mic guy. And I think that was his chance to kind of like, hey, what do you got here? He's going to come in and throw heaters at you. Can you match it? And the guy was kind of at a loss for words. So
Mhm.
that kind of left me a little worried for Theory. Like those are the opportunities where you got to stand up and go mano a mano, and he didn't. But I'm with you, Ace. I've been a big Austin Theory fan from jump, especially when everyone hated him. I just loved he was getting good heat with me.
Well, think about where they were from that moment where Daddy's not here anymore till now. To think that he's having a
Yep.
match with Cena, it felt like he was going to be excessed off the card. That's like not even hyperbole. That was legitimately how it felt, that he was going
No,
to be
that edge they
excommunicated.
gave him when he came out with the beard and just lost
Yeah.
his shit. That was a good moment for him to turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about Cena's bald spot is definitely not going to put you at the top of the WWE division.
Right.
But, finally, before you guys get into your next topic, we have to talk about the two main events, and one of them, who knows if it's going to be the main event of night one. Obviously, I think majority of fans believe that it should be with the way that they've been built up. You have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos for the tag team titles, and you have the true main event of WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns for the WWE Undisputed Universal, yada, 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 World Heavyweight Championship. These are two matches that I'm clutching my Raw Down Prediction Championship very tight on because I have no idea where this is going to go. A lot of people are very confident on Cody. A lot of people are very confident on Roman. I'm dead smack in the middle. I have no clue where this is going. And I think that is what makes the greatest WrestleMania matches is the ones that you can absolutely not predict. Again, if you listen to Raw Down, you know how critical I was on how Roman versus Sami should have happened at WrestleMania. And I was most concerned on how they were going to bridge this now to allow Sami to still get a spot at Mania, but not take away any shine from Cody. And I think they've done that absolutely perfectly. Everything with Jay turning on Sami, KO getting involved, and obviously just the overall build to Cody and Roman have been superb. So, I mean, I just want to kind of get some advice from you guys. How should I go on this prediction on Thursday for Roman and Cody and the tag team match? Because one is linked with the other, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I would say probably for the tag titles, I think that should main event night one, despite all the political things going on in the news about it needs to be the women's championship match. This is the main event of night one, and this is the first time the tag titles will ever main event for WrestleMania, and this is the one opportunity you really have when it feels that important that it should. As for who wins, I think you got to give Sami his moment because this is it. Sami Zania, the whole thing, had potential to be that Daniel Bryan moment in New Orleans, and this is the second best thing. And I don't want to look at the tag titles as a consolation prize because, as we mentioned, the U.S. title, the IC title, the World Championship, all have been brought to prominence. And these tag titles, as ugly as they are with the straps and they look like fucking nickels, I'm so into how they built the tag titles being important again. And, you know, the Usos losing is a key piece to this story because as Roman approaches the main event of night two, I think it's going to be very obvious that everything's falling around. And I think the prophetic promo from Cody Rhodes of everyone's going to leave you, you're going to lose everything, seeing the tag titles lose from the Usos and having to go face to face with them and then face what will be his reality night two, potentially. That has epic storytelling going into the main event. And as for who wins, Roman and Cody, I think it's 70-30 at this point with Cody winning. But like you said, there's a potential where they're going to like, let's get this further out into SummerSlam Detroit. Don't forget that's a football stadium show. Maybe they want something bigger for that. But there's all those rumors that Roman's taking time off, and that could be smoke and mirrors, all pun intended. But that is very, very it's interesting because usually it's very forecasted and broadcast what they're going to be doing for this, like this moment. The Rumble winner historically, go back to like 04, Benoit winning the Rumble. You knew he was winning the title. Lesnar in 03, you knew he was winning the title. Stone Cold, you knew. But like right here, there's still that little bit of doubt that do they want 1,000 days for Roman? How do they not pass up on that opportunity? Like 1,000 days is 1,000 days. You don't have this opportunity, like the patience that they've shown with this Roman reign. And yeah, I'm going Cody, but I am not confident in any way, shape, or form.
Well, You should be, because this is signed, sealed, delivered. Cody Rhodes, AEW has sent a savior to take down the bloodline. Cody as champion. And I think it's as predictable as what you just said, Ace. You know, Austin, all of these guys getting that coronation at Mania, all of those times we saw it coming. This is no different to me. They've gave you a little bit of that cheese to send you the other way with Roman, the 1,000 days, like all of that. We got a big stadium show in Detroit. There's enough to make you question it. But to me, it's like signed, sealed, delivered. Cody's taking the title. And the main reason I say that is what you alluded to. Dude, they have milked the bloodline story for what, 3 years now?
Yeah. If
And
not
I think
longer, if you trace
now,
it.
now the next year, you could run until next Mania the downfall of the bloodline.
That's true.
The Usos lose their titles. Roman loses his titles. And for the next year, you build infighting and you build to Roman versus Jey Uso at Mania 40. I mean, I think over the next year, that is the story to tell, is the complete disintegration of the bloodline. Who knows what Roman's schedule is going to be like, if he's taking time off, etc. But to me, that's the story on the table. You don't want to run this too long. You know, they've kind of perfectly packaged the storytelling here with the bloodline. And I feel like if you try to stretch it more, you're losing a big moment to put over your next guy. If you stretch it to SummerSlam, I mean, SummerSlam's it's a big event, but there's nothing like a world title change at Mania. And I feel like this feels like the right time, and there's story to come out of it. It doesn't leave you, you know, with nothing for Roman. They've laid groundwork for what's to come with the promo from Cody saying, you know, you're going to lose everything. Yeah, I have Cody going over, and as much as I'm not a big fan of the tag match, I have Sammy and KO going over.
So just perspective wise, and obviously you got to get out of here, young Anthony, but as far as attendance go, they're going to hype up the attendance and say what it is. But I think over the course of 2 days, it's 124,000 people between both nights. They can open up to 95,000 on each night if they need to. Where do you think they stand? Are they like, for each night, you think it's going to be like 65 to 70 each night, or you think they're going to bump it up to 90 as far as like realistic numbers?
102,978 for both.
What's the Dallas number? They're going to top that one. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. As long as the crowd is full, that's really all I care about. As long as it looks like a WrestleMania, it doesn't look like Mania 37 that, you know, you had a few people here, you know, I'm sure it's going to look fine. I mean, I was at Mania last year and I don't even remember how many people they said they had in the AT&T Stadium, but it looked very, very full. So, I mean, you know, 60,000, that's a cool number.
A lot of people.
But if they can open up some more tickets, I know Michael Cole was plugging those. They have some open limited time seating that was available for both nights. So who knows? But I think it'll be a good crowd nonetheless.
And
before we didn't mention the Logan Paul and Seth Rollins.
That's what I was
match.
about to say.
Oh, yeah, I think we just need to get your pick on that. But I mean, obviously, going to be a good match. I think we all feel that way. Logan Paul's shown he has the ability to go out there and show out Roman match, the Miz match. It's gonna be a good match, but
yeah,
you think
I feel weird giving it to Logan. I feel weird giving it to Logan because Seth has lost, I feel like, so many big matches recently. But you kind of have to give it to Logan. I feel like it's either you give it to Logan and you have Seth lose once again, or you give it to Seth and Logan loses once again. I mean, he's just off of a loss to Roman. I don't know. I think I'll just give it to Logan Paul here because obviously he's the younger guy. They want to build him up. So I guess I'll give it to him.
Yeah. I mean, the match is going to be good, but either way, like, I think it's a lose thing because Logan's lost pretty much every match aside from that Miz feud. Mm-hmm. And I think he needs the win more than Seth. But as you mentioned, Seth is coming off of that Cody feud, losing every single match. And then he's lost big matches too. I mean, he's had
lost
his
the Riddle
match,
lost a lot of stuff.
You got to find a way to give it to Rollins, man. It worries me for him if he's in another losing effort. Like, are you now going to be that guy, the perennial put over the other guy? You know, like, I like Logan Paul. I think he's great in the ring. Rollins obviously is one of my favorites in WWE, but man, you got to give the guy a win.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, dude, it was so great having you on here. This is like, again, you're the first guest here. If you want to plug the Titantron a little bit here, I'm about to check out the episode as soon as we get off air. But say what's been going on your end.
Yeah, I won't take any more of your time because I know we have 2 more topics to get into. I'm excited to hear the rest of this episode. But, the Titantron obviously has come back. It's me and 4 other co-hosts, all of my friends, and we all just kind of shoot the shit and talk about wrestling. This episode's a good one. We talk about AEW storytelling. We give our dream matches for WrestleMania 39. We have our own star rating system, which I'm very excited for. We're going to be giving our star ratings for a few matches throughout the week. Like it was mentioned, first episode dropped this morning on the day that we're recording. You can find it on Spotify. I think I'm trying to get it on the other platforms, but Anchor makes it a whole big thing to get it everywhere. But right now it's on Spotify, so you can definitely listen to it there. And follow us on social media at the Titantron on Instagram. That's where you can get all the updates and all the nice posts that we make about everything. And real quick, a Turnbuckle Tavern plug. You can listen to the Raw Down this Thursday. It's probably our biggest episode of the year. We're talking WrestleMania predictions. I'm defending my longest reigning Raw Down predictions championship reign. But I'm pretty confident that I could keep it for another pay-per-view. So definitely check out that episode. And once again, thanks for having me on. First guest on Wrestling Tonight. It's an honor and a privilege. Man,
J-Bone and Marco, they should be ashamed of themselves for not competing and taking that title from you, man. There is a lot on the line on this episode of Raw Down. So guys, go check out the Titantron. Go check out the Raw Down. Thanks for coming on, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great show.
We'll catch you, man.
Let's get into story number 2.
Big story 2.
Story number 2 is Supercard of Honor, which is going to lead into WrestleMania weekend. How could we preview this without my Honor Society partner? At Mullet.mania, Colton, live from Bowling Green, right? Are you in Bowling Green right now?
No, I'm in Louisville.
Oh, in Louisville. All right. Well, dude, it's so good to have you on here. I feel like, we can't cover Ring of Honor without you. It's become a you and I show with that, and I'm a big fan about what ROH has been doing, but I guess lead us down the road. Let's preview this.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for having me on today, guys. Stoked to talk about Supercard of Honor. Man, looking at the card for this one, it's hard to say it might not just steal the weekend. Like, I think this might be the best show of 4 nights. We've got WrestleMania night 1 and 2, and then you've got the New Japan Impact show mashing up on Thursday. Like, I think this might be the top contender for the weekend. So, man, starting off, you get the Reach for the Sky ladder match, which is going to be the ladder match with multiple teams deciding who those belts are going to, after Jay Briscoe's passing. This is going to be just a goddamn banger, man. You got Lucha Brothers. We've got Top Flight, Dante and Darius Martin. You got Aussie Open, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis. And we've got La Facción Ingobernable, Dolistico, and Roosh. And, man, I know, Ace, you and I have been kind of going back and forth all the last couple of weeks on Honor Society. Like, is this going to be a 4-man match? Is this or a 4-team match? Is this going to be a 6-team match? And it looks like, I left out the Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. So we're going to get a 5-team match, which I hadn't even considered the option of that. I think that's perfect. I think they picked the absolute best roster they could for this match, and it's going to be incredible. I can't wait to see it. I'd be interested to see where it lands on the card. I could see this being right before, the main event between Claudio and Eddie, or I could see it opening up the show because, they're going to need some time for this one. But, I'm really hoping to see, something with Mark Briscoe involved. I know we've got him later on the card, but I would like to see Mark maybe come out, hang the belts up on the loop before they get risen into the rafters above the ring. Just really a big fan of the whole concept of this, calling it the Reach for the Sky ladder match, and just kind of giving that nod to Jay and what the Briscoes have done for all of tag team wrestling, and especially ROH tag team wrestling.
So, Chad, I'll let you start here and give your prediction. We'll go back and forth like a volley.
I'm with you, Colton. They have to make this. There has to be a ceremonial element to this match. I know they've dubbed it Reach for the Sky in honor of Jay. Mark has to come out with the titles. I would love to see him hang those titles, like you said, Colton. Like, there has to be something to really let the fan watching feel the weight of the moment, because you're taking these titles that were never lost by ROH's greatest tag team, and there has to be some sort of transition of power from this iconic tag team of the Briscoe brothers going into an ROH without the Briscoe brothers. Like there has to be that shift, I think, that to make it truly feel special. And I think the fact that they've called it Reach for the Sky is a good indication that they're going to handle this correctly. Man, this is a pick 'em, man. I really don't know where they're going to go, because you don't know, obviously favorites, ladder match, Lucha Brothers, but are they going to throw tag titles on a AEW tag team? I'm high on Aussie Open. I know you guys have been putting them over huge on Honor Society, but are they going to put ROH titles on a New Japan team? Possibly. On one hand, I'm like, no. On the other hand, maybe that's a way to kind of make these two companies closer and more intertwined. They're not above putting New Japan titles on, an AEW team like FTR. So maybe you could go that route. I'm going dark horse here. I think it's possible they put them on Dralistico and Roosh. I'm not even going to attempt to say the name like you guys crush that name every week. I'm always shocked that you guys roll that tag team name off. I'm not even going to attempt it, but Dralistico and Roosh, I think, is the dark horse to win this.
So as far as ceremony goes, I think this is the perfect opportunity, not just for the tag titles, but to present new championship belts all across the board, because the old logo and the newer logo from Sinclair, like the women's title has the Sinclair logo, the tag titles have the old logo, the world title has the old logo. It's time for new rebranded belts. It's their WrestleMania. It's their biggest event of the year. Perfect opportunity to have Mark Briscoe present the new belts with the new crisp ROH logo, hang them above, and then he's kind of the signal that the match begins. The one team that stands out to me that shouldn't be in this match is the Lucha Brothers, as you mentioned. Like, am I mad they're in the match? Absolutely not. But they have not appeared on ROH TV, and for trying to do separation of church and state of AEW and ROH, really it should just be a 4-team match where let's highlight guys like Aussie Open, like La Faction on Ungobernable, which I just fucked up, even though you just said I knew it well. With Fletcher and Davis, they have been absolutely tearing it up on ROH TV, and this is a testament to what they're able to do on a television show, as we said last week, Colton, with it had to be 6 hours of taping, because they had 4 weeks worth of tape on this show. By the end of it, every single match, no matter how fatigued they are getting this crowd excited to watch the match, and they're tearing it up with other teams. I think they're the perfect team to build around. And to me, this is no question. Like you go no other direction. Aussie Open needs to be crowned the new ROH champs. And whether they're there full time or not doesn't really matter, because you're going to be taping in bulk. And I know they're taping this Wednesday before Dynamite instead of doing a Dark Elevation taping. Find a way to put it on Aussie Open. And that's how you build your new tag division. They have a big shoes to fill with the Briscoes, obviously. Like, no one is going to be the Briscoes, nor should they try. But Aussie Open, to me, is class of the tag world right now. And like, you can make the argument FTR is the best tag team. You can make the argument about the Young Bucks and go down the list of the best tag teams in the world. It's hard to argue at least Aussie Open being the top 3, if not being number 1, because they just go out there, and you can credit it to dance partners. You can credit it to, learning on the tutelage of Will Ospreay and working that strong style in New Japan. I am more and more impressed with Fletcher and Davis as weeks progress, and I can't say enough good things about them. I think they go over, but this match is going to be a absolute monstrosity of bodies. They're going to be everywhere, and it's going to steal the night. But I think placement on the card, I think you open it. Just go right for it.
I think so too, man. I think it's a great way to start off the night. I've been going back and forth all weekend with whether I think it's going to be Dralisco and Roosh or it's going to be Aussie Open. I'm going to pick Aussie Open here. But to be perfectly honest, man, I'm going to be happy with, besides Lucha Brothers. I mean, don't get me wrong, love the Lucha Brothers, but they're, much more. I think they need to stay on AEW weekly television. They put these belts on any of these other teams, and I'm going to be stoked. Like, if Top Flight comes out and wins this match, I'm going to be screaming, man. That would be wild to be awesome for those guys. But yeah, I think just the build we've seen from Aussie Open, especially the exchanges we've been seeing between them and some of the more veteran teams like Matt Seidel and Christopher Daniels on ROH Weekly TV. I think it's their time, and I think it also kind of, like you said, Chad, kind of show kind of a good faith handshake between New Japan and ROH. And I just think it's their time, man. Like when they first showed up that first week of ROH TV, I'm like, oh man, how much Aussie Open are we actually going to see on this program? And I'm happy to see that it looks like they're going to be a staple.
So am I seeing this correct? Daniels and Seidel are not in this match. It's just dawning on me, which is bizarre. They've been really hyping them up as a tag team every week. Maybe they didn't know if they'd be I don't know. Like the Lucha Brothers shouldn't be in this match, and I love them.
Daniels and Seidel want nothing to do with a ladder match.
I think that's what it is. Man.
You're right.
At their age, they're like, nope, this is a young man's game.
They're in great shape for their age, and I mean, for not tagging together in 16 years, they've been looking fucking incredible. But yeah, I don't think they want this. I think, especially if they put the belts on Aussie Open, that's a great first program for them to go into, is the new blood versus the old school. We already got a taste of it last week. They had a banger of a match. So yeah, it's those guys, they've earned their stripes. They don't need to be.
Yeah, that's a good call.
No.
Yeah, I think that was their call too. They probably got talked to about it, and they're like, we don't want anything to do with that. Dude, the Kingdom could do something too. I think there's somebody who could slide in and steal those titles, 100%. And they could easily. This is, like I said, this is a pick 'em match.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call. It could go on anybody, and I'll be happy with any result. But moving right along, let's go to the trios title. So it's going to be the Embassy with Brian Cage and Gates of Agony versus the team of AR Fox, Blake Christian, and Metalik. I'm really looking forward to this one, man. AR Fox and Blake Christian and Metalik are all individually incredible wrestlers to watch. We've gotten a taste of them as a team on ROH Weekly TV already, and I'm excited to see them bring it to the Embassy. Like last week, Embassy were kind of beaten down on why am I drawing a blank on their opponents last week? Ace, help me out.
Was it the boys?
It wasn't the boys.
They wrestled man, I don't have it in front of me, but
it's all good. Either way, they were being, real shithead heels after their match. They got a good win and they were just beaten down, and then AR and Blake Christian Metalik came down and kind of put it to them, and that really set it up. I like the storytelling with that. I think this is going to be a great match. I think if anybody has a chance in the, we're still kind of figuring out who's in the trios division in ROH right now, but this kind of, hodgepodge of a team of three individually really great guys, I think have the best chance to take it off the Embassy. That being said, the Embassy's a fucking force to be reckoned with. Like this is going to be a tough one, and I could see it going either way. I would say if the Embassy loses, we're hearing rumors about where Brian Cage is going next. I was reading right before you guys had me come on that AEW's offered him a contract extension, but he still hasn't signed. There's rumors he's interested in being a free agent for a while. There's rumors WWE has interest in him. So I think the result of this match will be a big clue as to what Brian Cage's future. If they take it off, if the Embassy loses here, I think there's a good chance that Brian Cage is either going back up to AEW roster or he's going elsewhere for a little while. So, but I could see it going either way. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say for this match, I think it's just fodder for this title reign. I can't see this. Again, maybe this is a team that's going to live forever with all them on this roster, but I don't see that being Blake Christian's role in, and I hope it's not, in ROH. And I've been pretty critical of the 6-man division, that the lack thereof of it. You have a trios division on AEW. What really separated ROH from a lot of promotions was their ability to have the 6-man title. I'm still shocked that they're even going to put emphasis on this going forward. Like, I would like to see this either be liquidated or unified with the trios title going forward, especially, and maybe they can go out there and sign a whole bunch of guys and build a division up and get like big trios, but having guys like on the throw together teams, this is a pointing case right now. Like, again, great wrestlers. AR Fox going to be stoked to see him in a match like this. Blake Christian, awesome showcase for him, but I'd much rather just have Blake Christian versus AR Fox, or Brian Cage versus AR Fox, and build it around maybe like a contendership match. I think the match can be awesome, but I just think the 6-man titles are just like lost in the sauce here. And I don't know, this match feels like it's just thrown together. And yeah, I see the Embassy winning, but that's just by default. Because again, this is a throw together team that, to me, I don't want on my TV. I want teams that are going to be together for the long haul.
Yeah, I think trying to have that 6-man division and that trios division and have a deep roster for those divisions. That's a tall task for Tony Khan. I mean, you always hear people talk about how, Vince was never big on tag teams because he had to pay 2 guys compared to 1. Well, now you're having to build a roster where you're paying 3 guys so for
True.
1 team. So I think they probably do some unification match down the line. I think that could be a fun match on Dynamite, combining those 2 titles. But I think Brian Cage is on his way out. I think he's possibly WWE bound. He could possibly show up on the Raw after Mania, man, because he's working with a handshake deal that he's only working through Supercard of Honor. It seems like that's something WWE would be all about, is to pull a star from them and have him debut in a certain way right after Mania. It would be a big kind of get and a big kind of FU to Tony Khan to get their guy like that. But having said that, it's AR Fox has been teaming up with Top Flight, and now you just throw him with Blake Christian and Metalik. I'm like, it seems like a hodgepodge. I would be shocked if they got the titles, but I would be shocked if Brian Cage stuck around and they kept the titles on them. I'm a big fan of Gates of Agony. I love them. If Cage leaves, I would really like to see Khan and the other guy in Gates of Agony. Khan is a former member of Shane Taylor Promotions. Have them push Shane Taylor a little more. Have him saddle back up with his old partner. We'll see where it goes, but I'm really torn on this. I do think Cage is leaving, so I'm going to say they throw it on the hodgepodge.
So Colton, I just looked up who they wrestled. It was, of course, the Trustbusters. They're littered on
That's
our
right.
screen.
Yeah,
if we don't know who it is, just think it's someone from the Trustbusters, Slim J, and Jeeves, and all that crew. But yeah, I agree with you guys with that.
Yeah, I think, I'm with you, Chad. I'm super torn here. It's hard to call. But I didn't even consider that, parents, when you first said about Gates of Agony, if Cage leaves, putting him back with Shane Taylor, that'd be great. And that kind of keeps him in the trios picture. My original thought was, the reason we're putting AR Fox, taking AR Fox, separating him from Top Flight, so Top Flight can have a spot in this ladder match, which I think they absolutely deserve. But I was like, oh, well, if Cage leaves, and maybe we see Gates of Agony in the tag scene a little bit, because, there's definitely room for more teams there as well. So, man,
honestly, Cage's contract situation is the linchpin of this entire match,
right?
For me, because if that contract situation wasn't happening right now, I feel like it's a clear cut Embassy's taking it.
Yeah, I'm gonna call that Embassy takes it and Brian Cage is sticking around. I could see, he seems like he's doing well here, and I could see him kind of maybe making appearances on both. I'm sure there's nothing in that contract that says you can't be on both ROH and AEW television. So I know that originally he had some issues there, but I could see him doing really well in either one. So, but I could also see him doing well in WWE. So we'll see. But just for the sake of not spending any more time on a match that's hopefully not going to be longer than 10 minutes on this card, we're going to keep the belts on the Embassy. Let's see, match just announced this week, I believe, is the AAA mega title match. So El Hijo del Vikingo versus Commander. Jesus Christ, man. Like the only 2 words I can say about this match, this is a dream match. And we just had a dream match with Vikingo against Kenny on previous, just last week's Dynamite. And man, I've gone back and watched highlights of that match probably 20 separate times since seeing it. It was just absolutely incredible, man. I don't keep up with AAA too closely. I read the headlines and everything, but I don't watch a lot of the product. So this was really his match with Kenny was my first experience with Vikingo. And, Commander, same way. I don't have a ton of experience with him, but I was looking up some of his stuff on YouTube, and man, yeah, this is going to be absolutely incredible. And I'm excited to see. I like keeping that kind of open door policy with other promotions that ROH has kind of continued to have that feel. So, it's nice, like we said earlier, we got Aussie Open, who's, historically been linked with New Japan, on the ROH card. But, they've been on ROH TV for over a month now. So, I mean, it kind of seems like they're digging their heels in to at least be ROH guys exclusively for a little while. So glad to see another belt from another promotion getting time on Supercard of Honor. Something I've always really liked about Ring of Honor is they, all right, our biggest show of the year, we're still down to have representation from other companies, which I think is a really, really good message to send.
Yeah, this match is going to be a show stealer match. You've got both guys are kind of up and comers. I think Vikingo's probably got a little more heat on him than Commander. Commander's a little more unknown, but Commander still shows out. I think both of these guys are the future of Lucha Libre, and to have that mega title on the line on ROH, I can't wait for this match. I think Vikingo retains, just because, he's ruling the roost in AAA right now. He's their guy, but Commander's going to have an incredible showing. And I think gifts aplenty on social media after this match.
Yeah, Commander, friend of the podcast, a big fan. We've been hyping him up on GCW, and him and I become, friendly on Instagram. He answers messages and stuff, and I'll always share his stuff. But seeing his rise happen over the course of the past, really 8 months, has been amazing to see. And both of these guys, like we talk about Aussie Open with innovative offense, but Vikingo and Commander in a style of wrestling that feels like everything's been done. They're reinventing what Lucha Libre is in the best way possible. Commander with the rope walk, you get in the 720 senton splash from Vikingo outside through tables. They are defying gravity, and this is one of those matches that feels like, again, could be, and I know we say this a lot, but could be the match of the weekend. And it's interesting to me the way this kind of worked out. The way Commander got that spot in the ladder match was because Vikingo was unavailable, and now these two are going against each other. As you mentioned, it's clear Vikingo's going over, but Commander, this is a chance for him on a huge stage to get his name out there, because now all eyes are on Vikingo after that match at Omega. So it's a huge moment for Commander to do what he does. We'll see. We're going to see, like I said, the rope walk, but he's more than just that. Like, he's out there just stealing the show, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, you don't always have to go over to get over, and I think Commander's going to get over huge.
Yeah, I agree, man. Definitely think there's no way they're taking the belt off Vikingo here. But yeah, this is going to be an instant classic, man. We're going to be talking about this one for a long, long time to come. And just going back to that, that I think it was a 630 that he did on Kenny through table. Ace, you and I kept going back and forth, like, look how close the table is to the ring mat there, man. Like, there's no way he didn't. How did he not hit his head? And man, he definitely kissed it a litto bit, man.
Yeah,
but he didn't sell it at all. Like, I saw it from another angle finally, like looking up other clips, and yeah, he got a little piece of it there. But glad to see that he's all right. But man, yeah, this one's going to be.
Meltzer said that awesome. Debut was more memorable than the Rey Mysterio one in '96. And how could you argue? I know recency bias is a real thing, but what Vikingo did was so impressive on a short notice and lack of build and whatever you want to be critical of. But, you and I were talking about it on last week. You don't need to build up a guy like this. Just watch him and learn in real time. You don't need Mike Tenay on commentary to tell you what it is. You have Google. Vikingo, not for anything, he was ranked number 5 in the PWI rankings just this year. So if that didn't tell you to go and check him out, you're doing yourself a disservice waiting things to be served on a platter. Like, these guys are right out there for you to consume. And there's other wrestlers that you are just because AEW or WWE doesn't tell you with a video package doesn't mean they don't exist. So this match is going to be awesome for those fans to finally see Commander, because he's a guy you saw in AEW, but this is going to be one of those matches that it's just him. It's just him, and we're going to see what GCW fans have been raving about for the past 12 months.
And with Vikingo, man, being his debut on American television on Dynamite being more impressive than Ray, what makes that more impressive is when Ray came out, I think he had a little more headway to blow people away because you weren't seeing stuff like that on your television. Today, Lucha Libre is kind of integrated into the American fan base where we've seen crazy high spots. And for Vikingo to still come in with a jaded wrestling fan base and still blow us away, I think it was a more impressive debut, because I think Mysterio had the luxury of American fans not really seeing as much from that style as much as fans today do. So I kind of agree. I think Vikingo really showed out and went above and beyond.
being bookmarked on that card with like the WCW work rate that was happening outside of Steve Regal and Fit Finley. Like everybody else was working a very slow style. So Rey Mysterio was this like weird change of pace. But you're right, Vikingo being on this card with the same card with other high flyers, it just speaks volumes about what he was able to do.
Yeah. Brother ranked number 5 in PWI top at 25 years old. I don't think he's exiting that top 5 anytime soon.
Right.
So moving forward, man, women's title match. We've got Athena versus Yuka Sakazaki. The setup for this one was kind of weird. It was Athena calling out Sakazaki like backstage, totally unprovoked. We haven't seen Sakazaki anywhere on American TV anytime in a while. And correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, this is going to be their first singles contest meeting. I know they had a tag match where that Sakazaki tagged with Sky Blue and fought Athena and Diamante. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this match. I'm sure it's going to be a stiff one, man. I mean, Athena's wrestling lately no one's been hurt, so I know everybody's safe. But man, I mean, she's coming off as like, it looks recklessly stiff to me. There's multiple spots every time she has a match that makes me very uncomfortable. So like, I'll be interested to see how much time this one gets. But I mean, I think it'll be a good match. But I don't think there's any way that Athena's losing the belt here the way that they're building her up to just be a monster unhinged heel. What do you guys think?
Yeah, as far as the build-up, there was none. Like, it was just like she challenged her in a backstage promo. And I understand taping in bulk kind of handicaps you to the point where you can't, like, you don't have the access to, even if you did have the access to her, you already taped everything on February 26th. So it's going to be a good match, a nice showcase match for Athena. Haven't been a huge fan of her iteration AEW. I like the edge she has in ROH. This is the place for her. I think she gets lost in the shuffle with the AEW women's division because of just speaks to the depth that has now existed at the top of that card. But this will be a really good showcase match, really, for both these women. We talked about Commander having the opportunity, Vikingo having the opportunity, but Sakazaki can also have the opportunity to appeal herself to the American audience. And I think they're going to really take to her style because she is, as you mentioned, she's going to keep up with the roughness of Athena. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm all in for this mean streak that Athena's bringing. It all started when she beat the shit out of Jody Threat in Canada. And I think they saw something there. There was some shoot heat in the back. And they kind of pulled it onto our television screen and went with it. I think this match is just suffering from Tony Khan trying to rebuild the ROH women's division. I think it's just a placeholder and that gives them more time to develop people like Trish Adora and Billy Starks and that next generation. But
Lady Frost.
Lady Frost, like they're trying to get their division underneath them, and it'll be a fun match. I'm actually big on Yuka Sakazaki. I think she puts on fun matches. But yeah, Athena retains.
So moving on to the Pure Championship, Wheeler Yuta versus Shibata. Man, talk about another dream match. Really excited for this one. Full-blown heel Yuta, man. Like we were talking on the debate a while back, Chad. We're like, oh man, when are we going to turn Mox heel? We didn't even think about turning the rest of BCC heel with him, but it's happened quick, and I've been really happy with the way it's been done. And what a perfect setup to have Yuta as the Pure champion and being a heel and cheating in literally every single Pure defense he has. The last two, he has snuck a closed fist in away from the ref. So he's been getting at least 2 closed fists in and getting the warning and not being disqualified. 100% chance of seeing that again. Man, yeah, Shibata, this is going to be awesome. I love the setup for it. The call out, he had with, a couple weeks prior, Yuta just called out pretty much the entire LA dojo. And then, gosh, I'm drawing a blank again here, guys. Sorry. Clark Connors, man.
Yep.
It was a match that went a little bit different than we expected. Clark Connors didn't get as much offense as we thought in that match, but he still had a pretty good showing. And then, Yuta going sitting, crisscross applesauce in the ring and calling out Shibata was pretty cool. So I think this one, I kind of wish who knows what we'll get to see this Thursday on ROH TV. Hopefully we get to see something from Shibata. Would be pretty cool just to have a little bit more setup instead of just, not seeing or hearing anything out of him before the card. But yeah, either way, I think this is going to be a good one, but I think Yuta goes over here. I think his reign of terror per se is just getting started.
I'm with you. Like we said in big story number 1 with Anthony, it's crazy what a heel turn can do for someone. This mean streak that Yuta has and the BCC has is a lot of fun to watch. It's no nonsense, and I love that he's kind of twisting those pure rules, and it just gives him such a good story wrinkle for him to have that title and be dishonorable in his reign. Shibata, this is a fun big match for hardcore fans, and kind of impressive because Shibata's coming off of a head injury, correct? Like
he's wrestled only twice since then, so it's pretty. And I'll get into it in a sec. I'll let you finish what you're saying.
It was like a brain bleed or something, like a pretty hardcore thing. So to see him come out and wrestle, against a pretty stiff opponent like Yuta, I think it's going to be fun. I think the fans are going to really, really enjoy this one.
Yeah, as far as Shibata goes, like the brain bleed thing was a real thing. He was supposed to be retired for life and then, worked his way back. The interesting part is we talk about the integration between New Japan Pro Wrestling, the relationship with AEW / Ring of Honor. He's kind of not blacklisted from New Japan, but what happened was he went into pretty much business for himself, where he was supposed to be doing a sparring match and they went all in to do the things and he wasn't cleared to do it. New Japan officials were super upset about it. But we've seen him on our TVs before. Obviously, in the summer, it was against Orange Cassidy with Mike Tyson on commentary. So he put over Orange clean as you can be. And to me, for Shibata, legend, it's not about winning matches. It's about showcasing new talent. And I think this is going to be his, putting over a Wheeler to the next level. And as you mentioned, Wheeler's just getting started in this heel persona, and he's really living up to it. I love the mocking nature of the LA dojo and making a mockery of the pure championship rules. And it feels like low-hanging fruit to do that as the pure champion. But you know what? It gets real heat. Yep. And Wheeler was like, we said it on Honor Society. His promos have been improving week after week. I know we saw him on Dynamite with the BCC thing first starting. He got on the mic. I think it was in Philly. And he cut a really good promo. He seems like he's gotten better since then. So, yeah, this match is going to be great. And I understand the pure rules is not for everybody. But I think over time, if you give enough time and importance on the pure division, I think it can get over because the concept is proven. And we've seen memorable moments go down the list from Bryan Danielson to other people involved, Nigel McGuinness. Like, we've seen pure championship rules build tension, and I think we're going to see some of it in this match. But yeah, Wheeler goes over.
Yeah, I love the pure championship rules. It's always one of my favorite matches on any Ring of Honor card, no matter who's involved. I love the entire concept, and I'm really looking forward to this one. All right, man. Well, we got 2 more to cover here. It's hard to believe. Like, man, they just keep getting better. Such a stacked card. So, Ring of Honor World Television Title match: Champion Samoa Joe versus Mark Briscoe. I can't explain how forward I'm looking to this match, man. I love Mark Briscoe. I love Samoa Joe. They've done a really good job. Not that he really needed any help with any, fans that have any experience with Joe, but they have been just building him and solidifying his role as an absolute fucking monster. I think it would be a really, really, it would be a giant missed opportunity to not have Mark Briscoe gain his first singles title here. Chad or Ace, you and I were talking last week on Honor Society how, as much as we're still feeling and we'll never probably totally recover from the loss of Jay Briscoe in the wrestling world. Without this, I don't know. Without Jay's passing, I don't know if we ever would have seen a situation in RH where Mark actually got a chance to go for a singles title, or at least to where, it definitely means a lot more afterwards. So I think I can't think of somebody better than to put the belt on. I mean, Mark Briscoe defending that championship weekly on RH TV is a great way to open up the show. I think there's no way that Mark doesn't go over. I mean, if he doesn't, I guess that's a better way to really just make Samoa Joe one of the most despicable heels of all fucking time. but I gotta go with Mark Briscoe here, man. I think it'd just be a huge missed opportunity to not put that belt on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's about moments. Like, that's what it is. It's just about moments with wrestling, and this is a moment you'll never get back. And I kind of wish it was for the world title. I'll be honest with you. I think we fantasy booked it when Jay first passed, and we're just like, I think Mark winning the world title at this moment, but this is going to be a huge moment. Samoa Joe is a pillar of Ring of Honor, past, present, and future. So having Mark get a win here, Samoa Joe's not worse for wear. We've seen he got choked out by Wardlow, and he's back beating people up on ROH TV. All it takes is like a week of TV to get him rehabilitated. But yeah, Mark goes over, and I think it's gonna be a good match.
Yeah, he reigns. He's been reigning a while, Samoa Joe, and I think this will. Everyone wondered when Jay passed, how are they going to move forward? They've done a great job honoring him on Dynamite. They put the package together that's on Honor Club. They've done a great job, but Supercard of Honor, I think when you really take a step back after the event, you're going to look and you're going to see Reach for the Sky, that match, and how they're going to put some ceremony around it with the passing of those tag titles from the fallen Jay, and his brother. And then you're also going to see Mark Briscoe win his first singles title. I think when you look at this event, it is the next chapter without Jay Briscoe. And I think they're going to handle it really well. And the thing that I'm so stoked for, I do think Briscoe wins that TV title, but you've got two ROH tried and true badasses who have gave blood, sweat, and tears to this company. And I think Samoa Joe, if you watch that 3-hour tribute on Honor Club, Samoa Joe's confessional about Jay Briscoe, I mean, the guy was literally in tears, recounting his relationship with the Briscoes and Jay. I think Samoa Joe and Mark Briscoe come out and they put it all on the fucking line in honor of Jay. And I think this match, there's a lot of, Vikingo, Commander, the crazy ladder match. There's all these matches that could steal the night, but just with the passion and emotion going into this, I think Samoa Joe and Mark Briscoe could steal the night.
I think you're right, man. I don't think there's going to be a dry eye in the ring or the crowd by the end of this one. And I think it's just a really good way to tell the story. I mean, Ace, I'm with you. It'd be really cool to see Mark get a chance at the world title. I don't think there's I'm glad that we're seeing this transition of him going for a mid-card title. There's nothing to say that in the future he might not have a run with the world title. And I think that would be an even greater tribute to Jay as well. But yeah, I like the route that they're going, that they're kind of starting him off with the TV title. And yeah, I think it's going to be great. It's going to be, I've got full faith in ROH that they're going to do this right, because I've been very happy with the way they've handled every part of Jay's legacy thus far. So, man, let's go. Time for the main event. Ring of Honor World Title match: Claudio Castagnoli versus Eddie Kingston. We were talking last week, Ace. I haven't seen a setup for storytelling this good in a long, long, long time. I'm still reeling off that backstage segment with Eddie Kingston and Claudio last week. I've got nothing bad to say about any of the Ring of Honor pay-per-views that we got after Tony bought the company without any build. All great shows with zero build whatsoever. But the fact that they're getting 5 weeks of TV to build this card, I've been very impressed and very happy with what they've been able to do with every match for the most part, but especially this one. Claudio coming out saying that Eddie has no honor whatsoever, which was, of course, in the eyes of the fans, man, just like he's got more honor than fucking anybody out there as far as we're concerned. He's about as real as it gets. He's blue collar. He's a man of the people. That segment was just like the tension just as soon as Caprice Coleman started introing it, man. You just see Eddie's leg going crazy, like he's just about to lose his shit and just destroy Claudio. And Claudio just looks like, he's got heat coming off of him, just radiating off of his body. He's such an insufferable prick. This is gonna be a great match, man. And I think this is kind of a pick 'em. I know with the, you guys were talking to Young Anthony about the WrestleMania preview with Cody and Roman. A lot of people are like, man, I'm split down the middle. It could go either way. I got to take Eddie here. I really do. I think it is long overdue for, since AEW's inception and Eddie getting to be on a major platform again. I think that, there was a lot of missed opportunities there with Eddie in a title picture in AEW. And I think he is long overdue to be the face of a company and be the heavyweight champion somewhere. And I just think there's endless stories you can tell with him holding that belt. So I got to go with Eddie here over Claudio.
You got to love the beauty of pro wrestling booking, because they always give you that little bit of a nugget to put doubt in your mind. But I'm with you, Colton. I think Eddie, man, God, him at the top of your card as champion, holding that belt. I think you got to pull the trigger on it. But the little bit of doubt you have is, do you take the heat of the BCC and have Claudio drop that belt? Maybe this is a way for them to transition him fully into, the BCC storyline, because I think that's going to really ramp up, possibly into a blood and guts situation between them and the Elite. But I don't think you lose anything if Eddie beats Claudio. With the heat they've garnered, that sit down with Caprice was phenomenal. I would love to see Eddie get the big belt in ROH. I think that's probably, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the bait to get him to go over and work ROH. Tony's like, hey, I want to put the belt on you. Will you go over and work for us down there? And Eddie's regardless of the past attitude issues that you hear people talk about Eddie Kingston, I think at his core, Eddie, if you do right by him, Eddie's a company guy.
For sure.
And I think Eddie's going to get the big gold.
So it looks like this will be the third largest crowd in the history of ROH. The largest is a New Japan show, as you know why so many people attended. So as far as ROH goes, this will be second behind Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes match in New Orleans that drew 6,000 people. So we're going to get about 3,700 people at the Gallon Center in Los Angeles. The perfect kickoff point. I agree. I mean, you go either way, but I have a feeling Claudio's retaining just to keep continuing heat. They love to build that story of Eddie chasing. There's something about Eddie down on his luck, but it really depends on where they want to go. I think you're right. I think we're going to get blood and guts with BCC involved in, and maybe Claudio needs to transition out, but great main event for your first pay-per-view with TV involved. And they built it up so beautifully. It's going to be a great night of wrestling.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite the show, man. I know that there's never really, I haven't watched every Supercard of Honor show, but I've never seen one that's disappointed me. But yeah, this one's gonna be up there with one of the best of all time. So really, really looking forward to it.
So Colton, before we let you go, what else is going on Malt.mania, and anything you want to hype up while you're on here?
Man, really just want to hype up Honor Society, man. Keep tuning in. We've been really happy with the engagement from everybody. Thanks to everybody who's been tuning in on YouTube at 10:10 on Thursdays. You guys are going to get a lot of us this week, man. You're going to get us on Thursday. You're going to get us on Friday, probably twice before and after Supercard of Honor. So, yeah, I hope you're not sick of us by the end of it. It's going to be a fun week, man. So, other than that, man, I'm celebrating my birthday this weekend. I'm going to there's a new promotion here in Louisville having their first TV taping, Derby City Wrestling. I think they're under like the United Wrestling umbrella that's got a couple of promotions in some of historical territory towns. I know they've got a promotion in Memphis as well, but it's going to be a good show. There's Moose is going to be there. Billy Starks is going to be there. I think Pretty Peter Avalon's going to be there. So nice. I haven't been able to find out a lot about the card, but getting a bunch of the friends together and heading down there. So really, really looking forward to that tonight.
Well, happy birthday, dude.
Thanks, y'all. But yeah, thanks for having me on Wrestling Tonight. It's a privilege to come on, man. I love what you guys are doing with this. This is a great place. You need a one-stop shop to get your source for everything wrestling news. Wrestling Tonight's the place to do it. And like always, turnbuckletavern.com, baby. Like, subscribe, get on all those platforms. We're on every single one out there. Whichever one you like best, come get us.
Appreciate it, Colton. Enjoy your birthday weekend. Ace, you ready for big story number 3?
Oh, man, saved one of the biggest ones for last.
Let's do it.
Big Story 3.
Man, we got CM Punk right in the mix again. Big story number 3. And it might have been number 1 if it wasn't for WrestleMania, but we got drama happen in the social media land, and CM Punk is at the core of this. And just as things seemed like it was calming down, Chad, it seemed like we were about to get, all right, everybody get in the same room, making some money and building up towards potentially making reality into storyline. Now it seems like the golden goose has been shot. Like at this point, there's no rehabilitating the relationship, because really, and we'll get into the logistics of it, he didn't only just put AEW on blast. He's saying that they're doing things that is immoral and potentially illegal by asking their talent to work hurt. So, man, he took to task a whole bunch of people, but I'll let you lead us through and then tell everybody what happened if they were sleeping under a rock this past weekend.
Yeah, this is hard for me. Like, God, there's a meme of a guy screaming at his TV, just saying, "Just stop it!" And that
Yeah.
was me. Like when I read this. So after a forum post from Dave Meltzer on the Observer forums, Punk posted an Instagram story calling Meltzer a liar, and then calling Chris Jericho a liar and a stooge, and scrutinized his feud with Jon Moxley, claimed he wasn't medically cleared for their AEW World Championship unification match on Dynamite. And I remember that match, everyone was like, what is going on? Because he got squashed. So essentially, like, dude, and I don't know how long this story was up. Was it up for like just a couple minutes?
I think the guy who screenshotted on Squared Circle Reddit screenshotted in 52 seconds, and I think it was gone after a minute. So Punk knew what he was doing. He knew there was going to be sleuths out there picking up the seeds.
So obviously this IG story could have been in violation of internal AEW guidelines, is what's being reported. Not only regarding his words about Jericho, but regarding his comments on his medical status. Supposedly their employee handbook, you cannot comment on medical status in the press. Like that's kind of a fail-safe thing for storyline. And, you know, you don't want to, obviously, like, we know what Punk did in WWE, you know, going out, damning the doctors, all of that. So apparently here's what makes me really bummed out about this. I feel like there was a lot of good faith being built. It seemed like they were moving towards a return. Like, it seemed like everything, you know, Kenny was saying the right things. Punk was posting very positive stuff about AEW talent and things of that nature. And Fightful even said that things were on the up and up between Punk and AEW prior to this IG story. Talks between Punk and AEW were having productive progression. AEW CEO Tony Khan and Punk were said to even have had a couple meetings since the backstage incident at All Out 2022, and they were very well received. The report from Fightful even said that one person backstage that they spoke to went as far as to say that Punk was willing to apologize for his words at the All Out press scrum. And they didn't say who he would apologize to or whether it would be public or on television. But Punk is said to have expressed regret about aspects of the brawl out. What do you think, Ace? I mean, I just think, like, man, you were right there.
Yep.
And you had to self-sabotage this.
That's the word, man. It's sabotage. I think what you're saying that is the word. And what I took away from this wasn't just Punk acting like a child, because I feel like that's been my opinion on it since the beginning, and just having his meltdown on the brawl out, all the way to how he's handled it, seems to be misplaced anger towards other people and attacking. Even if you feel a certain way, you have to play nice with Jericho. He's a locker room leader. You're making enemy of Jericho. He has a lot of people that support him there, and especially if you're trying to make a comeback. But what I really took away from this was the clarification of what the hell happened in that squash match that you referenced in the build-up to All Out, or lack of build-up. And now it all makes sense, because Moxley had this idea to do this Rocky 3 build-up where Punk gets squashed, but Punk wasn't cleared, so they had to do the squash when Punk was actually cleared, which happened to be a week before All Out. And they tried to rush and have Ace Steel be the Mickey of the Rocky, where he was playing that role. And I guess Mox would be the Clubber Lang, where it's like, all right, now we're building towards this Rocky thing. And, you know, obviously everyone's making fun of Punk, saying like he's never seen a Rocky movie and all that stuff. And the heat with Mox too is shocking, because he was a guy that was on the outside looking in. It didn't feel like Mox was targeted, but the fact that he's putting Mox on blast too, as mentioned, Mox has been heralded as a hero in this whole situation, taking up the mantle of carrying the company that was floundering. Let's be honest. Like, it wasn't financially floundering, but there was a lot of reputation on the line, and Mox steadied the ship. And for Punk to take aim at a guy like Jon Moxley, who seems to be universally loved in that locker room and by fans, like you said, it seems like sabotage. Why would you go out of your way to attack a guy like Mox after everything, especially too, you could feel any way you want. If Mox said he didn't want to lose to you and he had a passion for this Rocky 3 thing and then Punk didn't believe in it, that's fine. But why would you put that out on an Instagram story knowing someone would copy it if you have any intentions of coming back?
And it's even more fishy because Punk is good friends with Renee.
It's
you know what I mean?
bizarre.
Like, they were on the Fox Sports WWE show together, and you know, when he was on Renee's podcast, and they've always been very, very friendly and send messages to each other from what they say in the press. And for him to go after Moxley, like, it screams of, there were reports he wanted to come back, but making a move like this where not only do you call out Jericho, you call out Moxley, that is kind of the brain trust, Tony Khan's brain trust backstage. We've heard since Brawl Out, the 3 people that really stood up in the locker room and helped Tony get back on track and gain the faith of the locker room was Moxley, Jericho, and Bryan Danielson.
Yep.
So he went after both of those guys. I gotta be honest, man. Like, I'm not a fucking conspiracy nut. I'm not Tom. But this is so weird and so self-destructive. There is an element of me that's like, are we being played? Like, and I'm not, because it's such a dumb move. It's such an idiotic move. And like you said, man, Punk knew what he was doing. That post was up for a minute. He knew if he put it up for a minute, people would screen grab it and it would catch fire on the IWC social media. You know, everyone would be sharing that. So it seems like a calculated move where I'm like, are you just that dumb wanting to self-sabotage your career and get released from your contract with AEW? Or is this building to something? Because it doesn't seem like, say what you want about Punk, you know, he doesn't seem like a dumb guy. You know, he's a very calculated, everything he does comes with purpose, and nothing is just happenstance. Everything is planned. Everything is calculated. I don't know, man. There is a part of me, it's like, are we, you know, you had that Jericho post about a month ago where Jericho's like, I always like, it was one of those good faith moments where we're like, oh, Punk might be coming back, because Jericho posted about, I always liked working with Punk. Maybe we can work together in the future, something like that. And then this happens, and it makes me like, are we moving towards something like that? But I know Alvarez has said this recently, and I'm getting to that point with AEW booking. Like, dude, I'm tired of this shoot work shit. It's, and I love that stuff. I love reality in my wrestling, but it's so much. Will he leave? Won't he leave? The contract situations. Is this real? Is this not? Like, it's becoming so much that it's wearing thin on me, where I'm like, I just want some stories, man. Like, I'm tired of like having my heartstrings pulled of like, maybe this happens, maybe it doesn't. So I don't know. This has me all screwed up, because I was really hoping we were going to get a big Punk versus Omega, Elite versus FTR Punk situation. And if this is shoot real, like completely real, and he just made this comment, it's ridiculous to me.
If you trace this down, you can boil to the point of decision making of giving the interim tag was the reason all of this went down. And as dumb, as insignificant as it seems, it's been the cause of 2 real moments, with the Thunder Rosa thing,
Yep.
with Tony Storm, and then this was real. And the reason why Mox did not want to lose is because he wanted to legitimize his reign first before. And you got to credit the fact with Mox is like understanding his business side of things.
Right.
He wanted to get his win. And I'm not saying, you know, the fact that he put Mox on blast, saying I've never had someone say they wouldn't lose to me. The
That's
whole
bullshit.
even way it was written on Instagram too, it starts with sigh. Like, what do you like? Are you a teenager writing on MySpace? Like,
that's why it seems fake. That's why
just,
there is an element of like, this guy's not this dumb.
Like, I just think at this point, like, we're giving him too much credit for being this master storyteller. He's emotionally driven, and he feels his convictions are true. He feels the way he feels, and 100% he's gonna burn everything in front of him because he feels like he's the carrier of the truth. And it might be his truth. It might be a lot of the real truth. But at some point, if you want to work at a company where all these guys, all these personalities have to coexist, you can't just target the guys who are locker room leaders. You already alienated a lot of the roster. And I said that before, and Tom made fun of me and people, whatever. You alienate a big portion of the roster. And of course, there's Punk supporters. There's more people that like him than just FTR. There's a lot of people that have spoken kind things about him. He was very good for the young roster leading up to this. But if you want to have these conversations, if you're frustrated with Mox, you're frustrated with Jericho, pick up the phone and call them privately, especially as you're trying to rehabilitate your image to get back to AEW. Because if your purpose was to help the company, you're not doing that. You're really doing more damage than anything else if you go out there and continue to put all these things on blast in the media. You're doing exactly what you're mad about Meltzer and Jericho doing. So if you continue to do these things, it will never get better for you to come back. And you look at the way the AEW booking's gone. Since he's been gone, AEW feels like it's a back to the utopian society. We don't hear about the backstage fights as much. We don't hear about all the chaos going on in the back, aside from the Punk stuff. Like, at some point, you have to just either Tony Khan, it's decision-making time. Like, at this point, he's got to make a decision one side or the other, and it's going to have a ripple effect. And he's got to make the right one because this is a turning point for AEW. If you make the wrong decision and have Punk come back, there's a big chance where you can alienate a big portion of those people that are there that you mentioned, the brain trust. Those guys may not want to be around him. And for better or worse, if that happens, there's guys in that locker room that have been there through thick and thin. Moxley was there from the beginning.
Yep.
Let's not forget that Moxley and Jericho, when they were just considered a t-shirt company, Jericho hopped on board. Punk, and rightfully so, he's a huge star. He waited until it was established to get on board. He didn't jump from the beginning. I'm sure we heard the rumors. Tony Khan wanted him in the beginning.
From the beginning.
But Chris Jericho was the one who took the risk, took his star power, and helped build a secondary option to oppose WWE. Are they at WWE's level? No, but it has bettered the wrestling business, whether people like Tony Khan's booking or not. It has made the wrestling business better. And I something has to be said, like, Tony Khan has to make a decision for the betterment of his business.
Yeah, it's nut cutting time. It's time to make a decision. You know, supposedly the reports are saying Punk's contract status with AEW seems to be unchanged. He's still signed. He's still listed on the roster page. They're still pumping out merch. But no news about a Punk return, obviously. The report does suggest, though, that Punk is well aware of the issues he's caused backstage and the idea that certain talent could walk out upon his return. You know, while talks were making progress, Punk's Instagram rant may have changed the situation. Now, we got to throw out when he made that story, quickly after he deleted it, Jericho, who's on a little mini tour with Fozzy right now, Jericho posted his own story, and his IG story was a gif of Matt Hardy doing the delete. So he knows and maybe he's poking fun at the situation of Phil Brooks kind of being that self-destructive guy, but yeah. I don't know, man. Like, it was weird too, because prior to this, I believe like the day before, Punk had posted on Instagram about he posted a comment on a page about reading Steve Keirn's book, The Keirn Chronicles Volume 1, The Fabulous Wrestling Life of Steve Keirn. And it had all these wrestling stories. And his comment was, there's a great story about Gator and Coco fighting in the locker room, and then Lawler drags them in the office, and the next day they squash it. Kind of relating to his situation with the Bucks and Kenny.
Excluding one point, though, by the way, Can you imagine if you would have put Jerry Lawler on blast in front of all of the world? Jerry
Exactly.
Lawler would not have handled it the same exact way. This wasn't just a one-off fight with wrestlers getting a disagreement. We hear that all the time in the back.
100%.
Whether it be Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero getting to an all-out brawl, or doesn't matter. The missing piece is you attacked the owner of the company, the promoter, the guy who makes the decisions publicly and very childishly. So Tony Khan, it's not the same situation. Like, this was just a fight with guys arguing about booking decisions, or you're not happy about it and you handle it in the back. Different story.
Yeah.
But this is now reputation and it's AEW's namesake on the line.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, talking about a decision has to be made, because either this is some orchestrated storyline that they're trying to push. You know, we've got Kenny and the Bucks possibly having issues with Hangman and Don Callis becoming involved. We've got all of that.
The best part of all this is now it's seeming like he doesn't think the Bucks are the source to Meltzer. Now he thinks it's Jericho. So the whole incident was like, it just proves he had no factual driven of who was feeding the information to Dave.
And he's just going off of observer reports is what's making him mad, which blows my mind. Brian Alvarez, actually, I have a clip of Alvarez talking about Punk believing Meltzer's mole is Jericho. Here's Brian Alvarez from Wrestling Observer talking about this.
And I don't know if he is blaming Chris Jericho for telling Dave Meltzer about what happened over All Out Weekend. But when I look at this, it sure seems like that's what he's saying. And man, unless this guy has concrete proof that Dave Meltzer got this story from Chris Jericho, then we are literally in the exact same position that we were in August, where he is blaming somebody for telling Dave something that, quite frankly, I don't think Dave got from Chris Jericho. I don't know that, but I do know that I heard a lot of details about that weekend, and I didn't hear them from Chris Jericho. So it sounds to me like history is repeating itself.
Yep.
You always hear those Punk detractors saying this is just par for the course for the guy. He's always been a problem, and it seems like this is just his reputation solidified. And if it's not some big orchestrated work, like, I don't think it is. I think it's just a guy ruining shit. But at this point, make a decision, Tony Khan.
And we're not going to waste our time talking about the copy pasta thing he put up there about having a love affair with Shawn Michaels. He's making a mockery of, obviously, people screenshotting. I'm not sure if you saw that as well. He posted up. So, like, again, I'm just sick of talking about this topic. I want to talk about the wrestling on our screen. If Punk wants to play nice and come back, that would have been nice. But at this point, my loyalty relies on chemistry in the AEW locker room, because they brought me back to pro wrestling, because I was a person who was disenchanted with the monopolization of pro wrestling with WWE at the top. The fact that AEW existed as this company as a secondary option. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. But for me, their existence is more important than CM Punk being involved in this storyline. And I don't want things to go to hell if he comes back. If that's what's going to happen when he comes back, leave him out.
100%.
All right. You want to get into the quick hitters and talk all about the stuff we have that's not CM Punk?
Yeah, let's do that.
Quick hitters.
Man, some bad news here. We're going to lead here with the Impact Wrestling World Championship and being vacated because Josh Alexander has now a torn tricep. And with Josh Alexander, we've been very, very complimentary of his title reign here, bringing prestige back up to the Impact Championship. And he's the longest reigning Impact champion in the company's 20-plus year history. So it's a big deal. Losing it via injury is not the way we could all imagine that it would have ended. There's no word on how he suffered the injury. It didn't happen on TV. Apparently, he just wrestled this past weekend at AAA Lucha Libre World Cup. He teamed with PCO and Vampiro for a loss to the Impact Digital Media champion Joe Hendry, Carew, and Tom Latimer. Might have been one of those injuries. He got to the back after the adrenaline wore off, and he's like, oh, I don't feel 100%. after further tests. I mean, you can see the tweet that's on the screen here. It says, safe to say this news is devastating. I've torn my tricep. I'll have to relinquish my Impact Wrestling World title immediately. I'm heading into surgery momentarily. I'm so thankful for my Impact family for the sport. I'll be back and I'll be better than ever. He was scheduled to defend his title against Kushida at this big event for WrestleMania weekend, the Impact and New Japan Pro Wrestling Multiverse United event. And then he was supposed to be defending his title against Steve Maclin at Rebellion in April. Now Maclin versus Kushida will take place at Rebellion now for the vacated title. And a replacement for Kushida at this moment has not been announced for the Impact event. There's no way of spinning this. It sucks. It really does. There's no way of spinning this for Impact. This guy was your workhorse. He was carrying the brand. And it sucks that it ended this way.
Yeah, he was on a pretty legendary run for them. He was their workhorse. Everyone was really getting behind him too. He was extremely hot for the company. And to see a torn tricep take him out, anytime an injury derails kind of someone's trajectory in a company, it's a bummer. I was hoping, it just throws off storyline. They probably had something coming down the pike of how they were going to get the belt off of him. And when you have to kind of move and shake with an injury and shift things around, I think it disrupts the entire story flow down the card. But all the best to Josh Alexander.
What do you think about them crowning the champion at Rebellion with Maclin versus Kushida? Do you think they should have done a tournament, or does it feel the right choice? I mean, I guess it makes sense progression-wise. He was going to wrestle Maclin. He was going to wrestle Kushida, so combine them two, and you get a world champion on your roster. It's not the AEW approach. It's different for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Macklin's definitely been hot for the company since he left WWE and signed with them. Kushida, a lot of people are behind him. He was doing the stuff with Motor City Machine Guns. They were in that 6-man, I believe, that was scheduled, and then they kind of had to shift things. It's odd to me, honestly. I don't see either of these guys as champion. I would have expected Moose to maybe go back into that spot, or even pulling the trigger on a Bully Ray reign. Some former champion for two guys who've never held that belt to be thrust to win their first title based off of an injury. It's kind of odd to me.
Maybe Maclin was going to beat him at Rebellion, but I don't see that happening either. So it is a bizarre decision, but we'll see how it shakes out. Impact's been putting out quality programming, so we'll wait and see. But let's move to our next story here. The AEW idea that was turned down by Miro, and we haven't seen Miro on our TVs in quite some time. According to the aforementioned Dave Meltzer, Miro and CJ Perry, aka Lana, have been in Bulgaria for a month. Tony Khan had pitched an idea for him in September for Full Gear. One of the things highlighted in this was losing a battle royal where he and Adam Page would have been the last two. TK said that after the pay-per-view, they try to get back, and obviously his name hasn't been mentioned since, and he has about 3 years left on that contract. This was according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Yeah, what do you think? I mean, you were critical of this on Instagram, so I'm curious to see your take here.
I mean, come on, dude. How bad does it hurt you to lose to Hangman in a battle royal? That's one of your top guys. I'm assuming some sort of feud would have came out of that. If you're rubbing up close to Hangman, it could have been fun to see Miro and Hangman in a program, but
yep.
The fact that he won't do that, but he'll let his wife, get into all of these Attitude Era-esque sexual storylines on WWE. Remember that whole, I know
Lashley stuff. Yeah.
A certain sect of the fan base really loves that soap opera stuff. And I do too, but I mean, it just seems like Miro, the pot calling the kettle black. You'll do that, but you won't just drop it's not even a one-on-one match. It was a battle royal. I don't know. I'm not on Miro's side here.
Well, we also have more Vince McMahon in the news, and this could have been a top 3 story, but we're going to just try to cover it a little bit here. He made a significant payment towards the board of directors special committee investigation this week, as he and WWE have entered into an agreement over the cost of the investigation. So we talked about a lot of what Vince was doing outside of the allegations was the fact that he took money out of the company to pay off those people that he didn't want to speak. So a WWE's SEC filing notes that McMahon has personally paid $17.4 million towards the board's 2022 investigation into his sexual misconduct allegation against himself and former head of talent relations John Laurinaitis. The costs are for a period that ran from January 31st of this year, and McMahon entered into the reimbursement agreement on March 20th and made the payment on the 23rd, which was Thursday of this past week. McMahon also agreed to review in good faith and then reimburse WWE for additional costs related to the same matters. This is outside of the fact that we believe he's back in the fold creatively and also just giving some leadership advice for some storylines. You see his fingerprints on a couple things. One of the next quick hitter stories will definitely have Vince McMahon's DNA all over it. But WWE noted in February's Q4 and full year 2022 earnings release that they racked up $21.7 million in costs related to the investigation for the year of 2022. For a company that prints money, obviously it's not going to put them under, but this is a huge amount of money put into investigating a very impartial type of investigatory search into what actually happened. And again, a lot of times it's all just lip service to make it look like they are being transparent and doing the right thing. This is just, I guess, Vince again making right, quote unquote. I'm putting air quotes for those not watching on video, to get back into the fold. It feels like he's just trying to bury this by paying off the people, and like, you can't say I didn't give you the money back, and now he's gonna be back creatively.
I can't believe this guy's just sliding through this.
It's crazy.
Like the Wall Street Journal reports, all of this information coming out. You thought, especially in today's day and age with society and how, everything's being handled, you thought this was the takedown events, and he's like the Teflon Don, man.
Yep.
He is really finding a way to weasel out of these allegations. And we don't know the inner workings. We don't know the investigation, what came from this. Maybe a lot of it is bluster, but him paying back 17 million or, the $21 million in costs related to the investigation. Let's be honest, that's chump change to Vince McMahon. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to have to shell out, but he can afford that. So it's like, to me, all of this screams slap on the wrist, and it screams him getting his ducks in a row to kind of infiltrate the company again, get a hand in there prior to a sell where he can attach himself to this sell any which way he wants without reprisal from the board. That's what it seems like to me.
Speaking of WWE, we have former WWE superstar Naomi finally admitting to a fan on social media that she's no longer involved with WWE under contract, which everyone assumed. A trademark for the name Trinity Star. So it seems like she is either going to be signing with another company, potentially taking indie dates. What are your thoughts on Naomi? Or Trinity Star, I should say.
Trinity Star, good name. I think it's her lining herself up to from a business end to get ready to own her likeness as she moves into potential business with other companies. So I think she's a great talent. I think she's someone that they never truly got behind in WWE. And I think she would be someone, she'd be a real asset to an ROH, to an AEW, to a New Japan, to an Impact. Any of those companies would love to have her.
Well, we also have AEW potentially moving their all-out venue from Chicago to Chicago. The Now Arena, formerly the Sears Center, is where it originated from. They're trying to sell more tickets to the United Center. So with all the love, the Forbidden Door pre-sale was getting in Toronto, maybe they're realizing, okay, maybe we can get more money for All Out. Chicago was a hub. When I first read this headline, Chad, I thought potentially they were moving it from Chicago. And I was like, oh, they don't want anything to do with CM Punk. So we can't understate the significance of the Now Arena, where it's played in AEW's part, and maybe they've outgrown it at this point, just like they outgrew the MGM Grand Arena.
Right.
This was the site of All In 2018. This is the birth of AEW. So this arena will definitely they have a plaque on the wall. I took a picture with Tom and Mike when we went out to Chicago back for last All Out.
Yeah.
This is definitely, a huge arena for them, but good. They have to move to bigger and better things. United Arena, the United Center is a bigger place with more potential to grow.
I mean, yeah. I went to the Now Arena in 2021 for All Out, and good arena, but it only fits 11,000 people. United Center can fit as many as 23,000.
Yeah.
23.5. So it's a good way to, get that pay-per-view gate higher. And the punk conspiracy theorists, man, are going to be attaching to this type of news and say, Tony knows he's going to have the hometown boy on the card. Come all out. You got to throw the conspiracy stuff out there. Who was the guy who sold out the United Center for AEW the first time?
On a rumor.
Punk.
Yep. So WWE reportedly edited out a Raw segment this week to remove wrestling from the promo. I mentioned before with the Vince thing being back in the fold. So this is a report from Wrestling Observer and notes that a pre-taped segment for Monday's Raw had to be refilmed after one of the talents used the word wrestling in their promo. There's no word about what segment it was, but obviously it's worth noting that Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns used the term pro wrestlers on the same show. This is speculation that there could be obviously an indication that Vince McMahon has his grips on creative at this point. I mean, the word wrestling was previously banned in favor of sports entertainment, sports entertainer. There are still banned words that mean we haven't really heard a lot of them, but the addition of first names has been something that Vince took away. When we got Matt Riddle, that was a sign like, okay, Vince is really not in charge. But some of the other stuff to look for, like for words that are banned, if you hear them on your TV, it means Vince is not there. But blood, kayfabe, diva, belt, house show, trauma, victim, violence, spinal injuries, wrestling, wrestlers, and many others. So yeah, I think a lot of those words, it's nitpicking, but he wants the branding, and you can't even say hospital. You have to say medical facility. So things like that, it's all about branding and perception to separate himself from the smoke-filled auditoriums that wrestling was. They want to be bigger and better than wrestling, which is bullshit to me.
And fans can say like, it's kind of ridiculous to point out words like that, but those same fans that say that now were the same fans freaking out when Vince initially left and they were saying pro wrestling on air, and everyone's like, man, Triple H, look at the changes. They can say these words now. And now that they're not saying these words, I think it definitely lets you know that Vince is kind of weaseling his way back in, maybe not to a large degree, but with almost being booked against Lesnar and then reports like this, it makes you think, how much influence is he in the back?
Well, speaking about AEW prior, their house show, we finally got some numbers based on how it did. This was the second house show in their event history, but the first of the House Rules series. As we mentioned last week, was in Troy, Ohio, but according to WrestleNomics, the gross ticket revenue for House Rules was just shy of $100,000, $99,675, with $2,929 in paid ticket sales and an average of $34 per ticket. AW sold $24,640 in merchandise, with their cut being $17,944. AW has made over $1 million at the gates in their largest pay-per-view event. So the fact that they made almost $100,000 here for a house show, not a bad start. Really, it's not bad.
No, and I mean the place they were at in Troy, Ohio was 3,400 capacity, and I think they sold 3,200 tickets. So it's pretty good. I mean the videos coming out, it was packed.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that it doesn't wear the talent down, that because part of AEW's appeal to a lot of free agents is the fact that you have, a lot of the luxury of not the work schedule, the house rule stuff. Hopefully they cycle people through and maybe there's not as much onus on working 4 nights a week. I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to get to that point, but I think we don't want them being unhappy about it.
Yeah, and I think Tony knows that. I think that's a feather in his cap for why people want to come there. But at the same time, you're kind of walking that tightrope of you want the schedule to be appealing, but at the same time, young guys, the Top Flights, the Sky Blues, the Anna Jays, people like that, they need reps, man. And I think that's why you don't see them progress in the ring as quickly as young people in WWE, is they're not working as much. And repetition, there's that old saying of 10,000. It takes 10,000 hours to master anything. WWE talent is getting those 10,000 hours a lot quicker than AEW. So AEW, I think these house shows help the young talent, and then cycle through your vets at the top of the card to draw an audience in. I think that's the perfect formula.
Speaking of someone who's mastered what he's been able to do, it's Arn Anderson. So anytime he speaks, people should listen. And he was asked about FTR making their decision for the future. Are they going to go to WWE? Are they going to stay in AEW?
I have the clip of that if you want to play it.
Absolutely.
Dax and Cash back in AEW again.
Glad that they've made the right decision, hopefully, and they're going to be with AEW for a long time. I think that's where their worth will be appreciated. Let's face it, Dax is a headstrong guy, and he has a vision for what he thinks the business should be. And a lot of the time, and I would say almost most of the time, to the point of all the time, he's pretty close to being right. And the one thing that if you can get by butting heads with him, because he's headstrong, and I'll tell him, and he knows that, and I'm not even saying that's a fault. It's one of his attributes. Every team I've ever seen that walked into a match with those guys, and when it was all said and done, they were better for it. They were a better team right then. And the next day when they woke up, they were a little better. And they make everything they touch a little better. They work their ass off. They give 120%. They're just an asset to the wrestling business, period.
I gotta ask you, Ace, do you think they've already re-signed and this is all story? Do you think they're leaving? There's two opinions out there. What do you think?
I think they're leaving. I really do. And I think they tweeted something or Meltzer someone covered it and said Dax said the way Cody's been portrayed made them look at WWE a lot different. And I'd love it to be story, but I really believe that they're going, especially with the Punk stuff playing out the way it has. I think that's a big piece. And I think the fact that, I don't know, brighter, like a lot of the guys want they want to reignite their image in lieu of like how they present in WWE. And Cody Rhodes, latest example of it. I think if they get the FTR presentation, I don't think they could have the music, but very similar, coming out being 7-star FTR and getting a big moment, and also seeing potentially the tag titles main eventing WrestleMania. That has to look at them and be like, Cash and Dax looking at each other like, holy shit, like tag wrestling in WWE is being presented at a whole different level than where we last left it. And they made themselves into huge stars. I want them to be in AEW, but I really think they're going to WWE. I really do.
I love that we're on opposing sides. I'm on the complete opposite side. I think this has been so telegraphed from Dax and his podcast. I think reading the tea leaves, I think they're all probably already signed. And I think this is a way for Tony Khan. And look, man, I think the Acclaimed is a great team, young team. I love the Guns. Me and Sneed on the flagship have been big supporters of the Guns. But you have the best tag team division in the world at your disposal, and we've yet to see like that dominant top tier just showcase. And I don't think Tony Khan can let these guys go with their attachment of the Briscoe storyline, with them saying they want to get those titles in honor of the Briscoes. I don't think you're coming out and saying things like that without following through. And I think we see a legit run. Their first run with those AEW titles was kind of a blink and you miss it type of deal.
Yep.
I think we're going to see them in a top position as the champions, and AEW is going to reclaim that moniker of great tag team wrestling again, because it's been, kind of wishy-washy here lately with the Acclaimed. There hasn't been like tried and true matches. There's been some good ones, Swerve in Our Glory, the Acclaim, but I think FTR's staying.
Yeah, I mean, I can see all that you're saying. I'm thinking maybe I'm just have PTSD from the Cody stuff. Nothing is impossible at this point.
But you have to, like, that's another thing for Tony. You can't let this narrative get out there of when one of your big names comes up, they leave. Like, this has to be a good if they leave, then the fans are really going to start believing that everyone's just wanting to go back. Like, you have to nip this in the bud. You have to to pay these guys and push them, because I don't think money is the thing with FTR. I really think it's the way their legacy is built. So,
and I think that that's what the thing. I don't think it's going to be money, and Tony can't offer him WrestleMania.
Do they trust? I feel like Dax is kind of shaky about Vince's involvement and all of that.
True, 100%. I think Cody though is a perfect case of take a package that was built elsewhere and present it on your stage. And if FTR gets that machine behind them, I'm sure they're like rubbing their hands together about what their legacy would be. Again, main eventing a WrestleMania with the tag titles, that's got to be like,
yeah, we'll see.
Like,
we'll give an update. When is their match with the Guns? When's that happening?
I wouldn't say it's this week in St. Louis. It's probably next week because their contract's what? Is it 4/15? I think mid-April is their contract coming up.
There's a lot of people saying that if it's this week, they could leave and then show up at the Raw after Mania.
Damn. Wow.
I've heard that floated. So,
well, speaking of Tony Khan, we have the last piece of quick hitter news. Mercedes Moné gave some recent comments, and Tony Khan was encouraged by them. So he pretty much said, obviously with Mercedes, it's been.
I have the clip. You want to play the clip? I have a clip of that.
Absolutely, but she's been linked with AEW, so I think it's something that Tony Khan has.
Yeah, she's been putting the cheese out there that she may want the bag from Tony Khan.
And when she was asked about showing up, she said, quote, "When is it? Is it in June? So far, it could be open. My July's open too, but I got to get that phone call from Unc." What's your response to that?
Well, it's very encouraging thing to hear, and I have so much respect for Mercedes. I think she's such a great pro wrestler, and certainly she's one of the best in the world. And any wrestling company in the world, including AEW, is very fortunate to have Mercedes, and currently she's the world champion for our partner New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I think she's a great champion for them, and I'm glad she brought up Forbidden Door because that's going to be a very exciting event. And certainly the shadow of Mercedes is looming large in New Japan Pro Wrestling right now, and when AEW and New Japan clash at Forbidden Door, it'll be very interesting to see what happens, and certainly she's one of their top stars in New Japan, so it makes for a very interesting situation going into Forbidden Door.
She's coming to AEW. I mean, Forbidden Door it's Jade versus her. That's where the money is.
Lock it up. I think it's just a matter of time.
All right, let's get into Dave's raves.
Let's do it.
Dave raves.
All right, so this is going to be a quick one here, just the match of the week. And you guys, come on. You already know what the match of the week is. It got 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. It was Kenny Omega versus El Hijo del Vikingo, March 22nd from Independence, Missouri. Damn. And then Performer of the Week was Vikingo and Omega, bar none. This was the choice. I was surprised he only gave it 5 stars. I thought he was going to give it more.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get like 6-star happy here.
Like Okada. Well, if this took place in the Tokyo Dome, I think it would have been 6.25, but obviously you get a little edge.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if it was in the Tokyo Dome, it would have went way higher, but Independence, Missouri, they showed out. Definitely match of the week. I think it's not 100%. Even a question.
Well, we have a whole bunch of matches of the week to potentially for next week to prepare you for. Let's get to the week ahead. We have a lot of information to throw your way.
Let's do it.
The week ahead.
All right, so for the week ahead, we're going to start with, honestly, they could have been in our big 3 stories. GCW Collective is my highlight of the year. Aside from, obviously, the WrestleMania, Supercard of Honor, the Impact stuff, GCW has my heart as far as what they put out WrestleMania weekend. And there's no rest for the weary, dude. Starting Thursday, March 30th, they're running through, and I'll tell you guys the schedule right now, and this, again, is on West Coast time, so you account for that. I put some of the Eastern stuff, but just add 3 hours in front of it, but they open up the Collective 11 a.m. The Santino's Brothers presents GCW California Love. Some good guys on this card. Willie Mack is littered across all these different promotions. This is led by Che Cabrera, who's the reigning Santino Brothers championship holder, taking on Willie Mack. But there's some good talent on here, but setting the tone for the weekend, starting at 11 a.m. West Coast time. Well, Pacific, if you want to be technical. And, obviously 2:00 on Thursday. If you're working, I feel bad for you. You got to go and check it out.
Yeah.
4 p.m. Josh Barnett's Bloodsport gets things kicked off 7 p.m. Eastern, so you guys can settle in on Thursday night. Some great bangers in here. It's going to be Kota Ibushi for his first match back since October 2021 versus Speedball Mike Bailey. John Moxley versus Alex Coughlin. We also have Alex Coughlin versus Yu Yamura. Johnny Bloodsport, a.k.a. John Hennigan. Johnny Nitro versus Royce Isaacs. Barnett himself versus Timothy Thatcher. Jeff Cobb versus Bad Dude Tito. Davey Boy Smith versus J.R. Kratos. This is stacked. This is a stacked for Thursday night, man.
I think Josh Barnett's Bloodsport's one of the kind of highlights of the collective. Like, it's different. Barnett does a great job, and I love that he's attached himself to the GCW banner. Always solid matches. If you have to pick and choose, and you only can get 2 or 3, you're not getting the package deal with GCW, and you can only watch maybe 1 or 2 from the GCW collective, I would highly recommend Bloodsport being one of those 2 or 3 events you watch.
Yeah, the shoot style matches with the UWFI flavor. And this would be nice this year. As you mentioned that, I forgot. I paid for all the events for the collective, costing me over, like, I think the package was like closer to $100, but this year, $9.99. That's it.
It's great. Yeah. Sign up.
8 p.m. or 11 p.m. Eastern from the Ukrainian Cultural Center on Fight Plus, DDT Pro Wrestling. Some good stuff on here. Highlighted by, we get Takeshita on the card versus Yuki Inoue. Nick Wayne in a tag match, teaming with Andrew Everett versus Masada. Takeshi Masada versus Kojiyata Higuchi. Eddie Kingston's on this card as well, tagging with Jun Akiyama versus Daisuke Sasaki and Cannon. So a couple highlighted here. And if you're looking for more wrestling, 11 p.m. Eastern, check it out. And then we also have Billy Dixon's For the Culture. And again, like I mentioned, Willie Mack having double duty on the same day. He's going to be taking on Billy Dixon. Too Cold Scorpio versus Brian Keith.
Great
we have Trish Adora for the Pan-African World Diaspora Wrestling World Championship versus Calvin Tankman. Good night. And Myron Reed's on this card too. So
loaded.
Be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a good late night event.
It's late. So then leading into Friday, technically Friday as the workday continues, Jimmy Lloyd's Generation F. Alec Price versus Starboy Charlie, Bobby Orlando versus Sawyer Wreck, Cole Radrick versus Titus Alexander. And we also have got the East West Express teaming up in a triple threat, fatal 4-way tag match. Best Bros versus East West versus Wasted Youth versus CPF. Goddamn.
A lot of good young talent on that event.
And on DDT versus GCW following up with that, and then highlighted by Joey Janela's in action versus Yuki Inoue. Cole Radrick versus Yoshiko. I mean, Effie and Alley Katz teaming up against Dino and Lino. So Mike Bailey's on this card too. Again, like I'm saying, go check out the cards. And I know my critique of GCW is how they present their information. I had to really dig deep to find these cards, but just go Fight Plus, put your push notifications on. They'll tell you when shit goes live.
Yeah. Second Gear Crew too. Manders, Matt Justice, Mance Warner. They're on the DDT versus GCW.
And then 11 p.m., what's become a staple of WrestleMania weekend, Joey Janela's Spring Break 7. Believe it or not, it's 7, but we're going to get Vikingo versus Mike Bailey, Ibushi versus Janela, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley teaming up to defend the GCW tag titles against Nick Wade and Jordan Oliver. And we're going to get Nick Gage and Maki Ito in action. Joey Janela's Spring Break is, you want to talk about highlights of the weekend, this is one of them.
Yeah, that's their diamond. That I feel like is their mania, is Joey Janela's Spring Break.
And on Saturday, April 1st, we get, late at night, we got the emo fight from the Ukrainian Cultural Center, headlined by Leo Rush versus Jimmy Jacobs, who's going into the Independent Hall of Fame. So, big weekend.
Yeah.
On Saturday, April 1st at 11 a.m. Pacific time, Effie's Big Gay Brunch from Los Angeles. Headlined, by that huge match, Aaron Rourke, Ashton Starr, Becca, Dylan McQueen, and Rico Gonzalez teaming up against Money, Power, Respect. Effie's Big Gay Brunch has become a staple too. It's like the Joey Janela stuff that happens in the morning. So it's break in the Big Gay Brunch.
Yeah, a lot of good people in there. Jai Vidal, Fred Rosser, Sawyer Wreck. A lot of people worth checking out. And
then at 9 p.m. we have Gringo Locos The World of GCW on Lucha. Vikingo against Laredo Kid. Ciclope versus Miedo Extremo versus Bestia 666 and Damien 666. Psycho Clown versus Gringo Loco. This is a Lucha Heavy GCW World on GCW event. Great night of wrestling headlined by Gringo Loco.
Yeah, and that Gringo's World on Lucha last year almost stole the weekend. So
yeah. I mean, 3 matches from Vikingo and GCW Collective. I mean, what else can you ask for?
Right.
And then for Sunday, April 2nd, 3 p.m. Eastern, the Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame, Paul London, Chris Daniels, cheerleader Melissa, Jimmy Jacobs, Mike Modest, and the latest edition, Excalibur. So, fuck, man. GCW loaded.
Yeah, if you're a GCW fan, your whole weekend's set. You're set for the weekend.
We also have Stand and Deliver from the Crypto.com Arena, 1 p.m., headlined by Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker. Feels like whoever loses this match is being called up the night after WrestleMania on Raw. But we also have the ladder match for the NXT Women's title, Zoe Stark versus Gigi Golan versus To Be Determined, because Roxanne Perez was supposed to be in the match. We'll see who they put in there. Should be good. I mean, you're going to check this out. It's early in the day. There's other stuff you could be watching, but I think I'm going to check it out to whet my palate for WrestleMania.
Yeah. It's weird how NXT's kind of fallen as far as like they used to be a marquee match in the evening, and now they're just kind of midday, kind of whetting your appetite, getting you going. But Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker, that's a fun match, and I'm a big fan of Zoe Stark and Gigi Dolan.
We also have Dynamite, obviously, from St. Louis. We're going to get Adam Cole versus Daniel Garcia, Kenny Omega versus Jeff Cobb, and some fallout from that storytelling with Don Callis, the Elite, the Ambulance. So this is 329. So lost in all the WrestleMania stuff. Obviously, Dynamite is not in LA, but they're from St. Louis. So make sure you guys don't miss Dynamite and check out the wrap-up show in the flagship the next day after.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where they go with this week's Dynamite.
And like we mentioned before, the Impact New Japan Pro Wrestling Multiverse United show from the Globe Theater in LA. As you mentioned, Kushida, we don't know who his opponent is at this point. We're going to get Speedball Mike Bailey versus Tanahashi, who's supposed to be versus Will Ospreay, but he's injured. Minoru Suzuki versus Kenta. X Division champion Trey Miguel defends against Rich Swann, Kevin Knight, Frankie Kazarian, Clark Connors, and Rocky Romero in a scramble match. Cobb versus Moose. Check it out. Impact is killing it as well.
Yeah, Chris Bay and Ace Austin defending the Impact titles against Aussie Open, Motor City Machine Guns and TMDK. That's going to be a good match.
For the Mania Go Home shows for Raw and SmackDown, Raw is going to have Lesnar versus Omos, the weigh-in for WrestleMania 39. We're going to get a special edition of Miz TV with the tag team champions of the women's division, Lita and Becky Lynch with Trish Stratus. And on SmackDown, we're going to get the 9th annual, believe it or not, Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I don't like that this doesn't happen on WrestleMania. You have 2 nights of wrestling. You should put it on the show.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 9 years since they started that. It's
I remember
wild.
the first one with Cesaro. That was and in New Orleans, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll build up the NWA and the MLW stuff next week as we get closer to it. But that's all we got for you for the week ahead. But I'll let Chad lead you out. I mean, we gave you a lot of information. Thank you so much for Young Anthony and Colton for hopping on. This was definitely a different type of episode in the best way possible. So I appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Love having Colton and Anthony stop by. Big weekend ahead, guys. Like, hopefully we primed you for Mania weekend, and next week, like Ace said, we'll be priming up NWA 312. We'll be priming up MLW War Chamber. There's a lot of stuff coming out, so keep it locked on Wrestling Tonight here at theturnbuckletavern.com.
Support good wrestling, guys. Watch GCW Collective. You will not be disappointed. This is the weekend you check out GCW. Make it this one. Like, this is the weekend it will probably hook you.
Yeah, this is their kind of marquee weekend right along with Mania. So check it all out. Until next week, keep it snug and stiff, guys, and we'll catch you then. Enjoy Mania. Enjoy GCW. Enjoy Supercard of Honor. Until next time. Later, guys.
See you guys.
Reach for the sky, boy.